By the time Eleanor Stevenson collapsed into the snow, she had already given everything she had to keep the wolf cub alive. Blood soaked her clothes, her ribs were shattered, and the rogues closing in knew she could no longer run. She covered the trembling cub with her own body and waited for the killing blow. It never came. A growl silenced the forest, and the Alpha King stepped out of the storm. One look at Eleanor left him furious, and strangely certain she could not be allowed to die. Chapter 1. The forest did not care whether Eleanor Stevenson lived or died. She understood that with brutal clarity as she staggered through the frozen undergrowth. One arm wrapped around her shattered ribs, while the other held a tiny wolf cub tightly against her chest. Blood had soaked through her torn shirt. Her blood, not the cub's. Thank the gods for that. Every breath felt as though she were swallowing broken glass, but Eleanor forced herself to keep moving. Behind her, snarls tore through the storm. Closer, louder, more frantic. 3 rogues. Maybe 4. She had stopped counting after the first one's claws ripped through her side. The cub whimpered against her chest. Eleanor lowered her face and pressed her lips to his small head. Shush, baby. Almost there, almost safe. It was a lie. She did not know where there was. She did not know whether safety even existed anymore. The winter storm seemed determined to match her desperation. Ice-coated branches scratched across her face. Wind screamed between the pines. Snow fell so heavily that Eleanor could barely see a few feet ahead. Her wolf moved restlessly beneath her skin, demanding release, shift, fight, run faster. But Eleanor couldn't. Not while carrying the cub, and not when there was something wrong with her wolf. There had always been something wrong with her. She had known it since her first shift at 13. Other young wolves emerged in shades of brown, gray, and black. Eleanor had become something entirely different. Her wolf had been silver white, luminous beneath the moon, with eyes that burned like molten mercury. Beautiful, terrifying, unnatural. That was what the Clearwater Pack had decided. Some called her cursed. Others called her an abomination. They had tolerated her because her parents had been loyal members of the pack, because Eleanor learned to lower her eyes, keep her head down, make herself useful, make herself small. Most importantly, she learned to make herself invisible. Until tonight. Until she found a wolf cub abandoned in the snow beside the body of his mother. The female wolf was already cooling, her throat torn open by rogues. Eleanor had not stopped to think. She had simply picked up the cub. Then the rogues caught her scent. And with one instinctive decision, Eleanor had chosen the life of an innocent child over her own survival. Her boot caught beneath a root. She fell hard. Pain detonated through her ribs, white-hot and blinding. The cub slipped from her arms and tumbled into the snow with a terrified yelp. No. Eleanor reached for him. Her body refused to obey. Blood pooled beneath her, staining the clean white snow crimson. Her vision blurred. Then the rogues burst through the trees. 4 of them. Their eyes were wild with bloodlust and something darker. Not hunger for food. Hunger for destruction. The largest was a mangy gray wolf with half an ear missing. He stalked toward the cub, his lips peeled back from yellowed fangs. Something inside Eleanor snapped. Not her body. That was already broken. Not her spirit. Clearwater had spent years breaking that. This came from somewhere deeper. Something older. A force that had slept inside her bones since birth, waiting for the moment when Eleanor Stevenson had absolutely nothing left to lose. Don't touch him. The voice that came from her throat did not sound entirely human. It was layered. Resonant. Powerful enough to roll through the forest like distant thunder. Silver light exploded from her skin. The gray rogue skidded backward, snarling in confusion. Eleanor was just as confused. Power raced through her veins like liquid starlight, burning through the pain and fear until only one instinct remained. Protect him. She forced herself onto her knees. Then she placed her battered body between the rogues and the cub. Her palms struck the snow. Silver flames erupted beneath them. Cold fire. It did not burn the earth. It pulsed with an ancient energy Eleanor had never felt before. What the hell? One rogue shifted back into human form. He was scarred, thin, and wild-eyed. His expression changed the moment he looked at Eleanor. "She's one of them." His voice trembled. "One of the marked. Stay unnoticed. Stay silent. Impossible." The Grey leader shifted as well. "They've been extinct for 200 years. The scarred man stared at Eleanor. "Does she look dead to you?" Eleanor had no idea what they meant. Marked? She had never heard the word used that way. Yet the power flooding her body felt strangely familiar, as though she were remembering a dream she had forgotten as a child. The gray-haired leader bared his teeth. "Marked or not, she's dying. Kill her. Take the cub. The Alpha King will pay well for Black Ridge blood." Eleanor's heart lurched. The Alpha King? Her gaze dropped toward the shivering cub. He was not an ordinary child. He belonged to royal blood. And Eleanor had apparently signed her own death warrant by protecting him. The rogues moved forward together. They could see what Eleanor already knew. Her sudden burst of power was fading. The silver flames flickered. Then they vanished. Every injury crashed back into her at once. Broken ribs, the torn flesh along her side, blood loss, cold. She had no strength left, no magic, no hope. But she still had a choice. Eleanor spread her arms and covered the cub completely. "You'll have to go through me." The Grey rogue laughed. "That's the idea, sweetheart." He lunged. Eleanor closed her eyes. She waited for death. It never came. The forest became silent. Not quiet. Silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Then a growl rolled between the trees. Low. Primal. Saturated with such overwhelming authority that Eleanor's wolf immediately lowered herself in submission. But Eleanor realized something strange. Her wolf was not afraid. She recognized that sound, almost as though she had been waiting for it her entire life. The rogues froze. "Oh, gods," one whispered. "That's impossible. He never leaves the Northern Territories." The Grey rogue's face changed. "Run." Too late. A massive black wolf emerged from the storm. He was nearly twice the size of the rogues. His eyes burned amber gold against the darkness, and his fur seemed to swallow the light around him. He looked less like an animal and more like a piece of the night that had taken physical form. Eleanor had never seen anything so terrifying, or so beautiful. The black wolf did not hesitate. He crossed the distance to the Grey rogue in seconds. His jaws closed around the man's throat before the rogue could complete his shift. Bones snapped. The remaining 3 ran. 2 more wolves appeared through the storm, one rust-colored and the other pale gray, cutting off their escape. The fight was brutal, and very short. Eleanor could only watch as the black wolf and his companions dismantled the rogues with the efficiency of warriors who had done this many times before. Within a minute it was over. The black wolf stood above the Grey rogue's body. Blood dripped from his muzzle. Then those amber eyes found Eleanor. Her breath caught. He walked toward her slowly. Each step was measured, almost as if he were giving her the chance to run. As if she had enough strength left to move. When he stopped a few feet away, he shifted. Eleanor had witnessed countless transformations, never one like his. There was no struggle, no awkwardness. One moment, a giant black wolf stood before her. The next, a man was kneeling in the snow. The cold did not seem to bother him. Neither did his nakedness. He was built like violence held under perfect control. Broad shoulders. Powerful arms marked by old scars. A hard face whose sharpness should have made him unattractive, yet somehow made it impossible to look away. Black hair brushed his shoulders. And his eyes, those impossible amber eyes, fixed Eleanor in place. But it was his presence that truly stole her breath. Power radiated from him, not the uncontrolled chaos she had felt from the rogues. His power was disciplined, ancient, absolute. This was an alpha, number, more than an alpha. This had to be the Alpha King the rogues had mentioned. You're hurt. His voice was deep and rough. Something beneath it sounded like anger, or concern, maybe both. Eleanor tried to answer. A cough escaped instead, bringing blood to her lips. His jaw tightened. Javier, shift. Give me your shirt. The rust-colored wolf transformed into a lean man with kind eyes. He immediately removed the shirt that appeared with his shift and handed it over. The Alpha King took it without looking away from Eleanor. Then he moved closer. I'm going to touch you. His voice softened. I need to stop the bleeding. Don't fight me. Eleanor almost laughed. Fight him? She could barely keep her eyes open. He pressed the cloth against her torn side. Eleanor hissed from the pressure. His hands were unexpectedly gentle for someone who had just torn out another man's throat. The cub, she gasped. Is he safe? The Alpha King's gaze moved toward the tiny wolf curled in the snow, shivering, terrified, alive. You protected him. Had to. Her words were becoming slurred. He's innocent. Just a baby. Something shifted across the Alpha King's face. Surprise, perhaps. Maybe something else. Do you know who he is? Does it matter? Gray shadows crowded the edge of Eleanor's vision. He needed help. That's all I needed to know. You were willing to die for a stranger's child. Better than living as a coward. She struggled to focus on his face. Besides, already dead, Clearwater Pack. They'll kill me for this. For saving him? For the power. For being wrong. His expression changed. You're not wrong. The words were unexpectedly gentle. You're marked. One of the ancient bloodline. I thought your line was extinct. Don't know what that means. Her head sagged. Don't care. Just promise me the cub lives. Please. Strong hands cupped her face and lifted her gaze. The Alpha King's amber eyes burned into hers. For one impossible moment, Eleanor forgot the cold, forgot the blood, forgot that she might be dying. Look at me. The command carried enough authority that her body obeyed before her mind could object. You're not dying tonight, do you understand? Eleanor stared at him. I won't allow it. A weak, disbelieving breath left her. Not your choice. His expression hardened. Everything in these territories is my choice. And I choose you living. His thumb moved gently across her cheek, wiping away something wet. Blood. Tears. She couldn't tell. You're brave, he said. Foolish, but brave. This world needs more wolves willing to protect the innocent no matter the cost. Why do you care? Her voice was barely audible. His answer made even less sense. Because I've been looking for you for 3 years. Eleanor did not have time to understand. He lifted her into his arms as if she weighed nothing. Pain tore through her ribs. She cried out, I know, I'm sorry. His hold tightened carefully. But we need to move. More rogues may come. He turned to his companions. Javier, take the cub. Glenn, scout ahead. We're taking both of them to Black Ridge. The pale gray wolf shifted into a silver-haired man. Your Majesty, the council won't approve bringing an unknown wolf into. I don't remember asking for their approval. The Alpha King's voice turned cold enough to stop him instantly. She saved my nephew's life. She bled for my bloodline. His eyes lowered to Eleanor. That makes her mine to protect. Anyone who objects can bring the matter to me personally. The declaration settled over Eleanor with almost physical weight. His to protect. She should have been frightened by those words. She should have demanded to know what they meant. Why he wanted her. Why he claimed he had searched for her for 3 years. But consciousness was slipping away. And the only thought Eleanor could hold on to was that his arms felt safe. For the first time in her life, someone had looked at her and called her brave instead of cursed. Maybe she was not going to die alone in the snow. "Stay with me," the Alpha King murmured against her hair as he carried her through the storm. "Just a little longer. I've got you." Before darkness claimed her completely, Eleanor did something she had not done in years. She believed him. The world returned in fragments. First came warmth. Real warmth. Not the numb illusion of warmth that came before freezing to death. It seeped slowly through Eleanor's body, reaching places the cold had occupied for so long that she had almost forgotten comfort existed. Then came softness. She was lying on something that was not frozen ground. A bed. Blankets surrounded her, carrying the scents of pine, wood smoke, and something wild and masculine that made her wolf stir beneath her skin. Then came pain. Gods. Her ribs burned. The wound in her side felt as though someone had cut her open all over again. Every muscle protested when she tried to move. "Don't." A hand rested gently on her shoulder. Not pinning her. Steadying her. "You'll tear the stitches." Eleanor's eyes opened. She was inside a large bedroom with exposed wooden beams, hand-carved furniture, thick furs, and a stone fireplace glowing warmly in one wall. Through a broad window she could see snow still falling. She was warm, safe, protected, and sitting beside her bed, watching her with those unmistakable amber eyes, was the Alpha King. He wore a black shirt, dark trousers, and boots. Somehow, clothed, he seemed even more dangerous. His presence filled the room. The cub. Her throat was dry. Sleeping. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Javier's mate is looking after him. He's unharmed thanks to you. A few bruises. Mild hypothermia. He'll recover completely." Relief swept through Eleanor so sharply that tears burned her eyes. "Good," she swallowed. "That's good. You nearly died saving him. He's a child. He's not your child. Doesn't matter." Even lying injured in his bed, inside his territory, and completely at his mercy, Eleanor met his gaze. "Would you have left him there?" A flicker of respect moved across his face. "No." "Then you understand." Silence stretched between them. The Alpha King studied her with unsettling concentration. His gaze moved over her face, as though she were a puzzle he intended to solve. Eleanor did not know whether she wanted to move away from him or closer. Either instinct seemed dangerous. "What's your name?" he finally asked. "Eleanor Stevenson." "Eleanor," he said it slowly. "I'm Russ Mercer, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, leader of Black Ridge Pack." Russ. The name suited him. Strong. Simple. Solid. "Where am I?" "My home. The main house in Black Ridge Territory." He gestured toward the window. "About 40 miles from where I found you. 40 miles from Clearwater. 40 miles from everything Eleanor had ever known. And everyone who had rejected her. "They'll come for me." Russ's expression sharpened. "Your pack?" Eleanor nodded. "They'll want me back." She hesitated. "To punish you." Russ finished the thought for her. His voice became dangerously flat. "For having the audacity to be powerful." Eleanor flinched. "How did you know?" "I saw what you did. The silver flames, that ancient power." His gaze never left hers. "You're marked, Eleanor. You're descended from the Silver Moon bloodline." "I don't know what that means." "It means your ancestors were among the original wolves. Wolves who walked between worlds and could call directly upon the moon's power. They were the first alphas, the most powerful beings in our history." There was reverence in Russ's voice now. "They were hunted to extinction 2 centuries ago by wolves who feared what they could do." Eleanor stared at him. "Extinct?" "That's what everyone believed." His eyes darkened. "Until 3 years ago." He explained that during the winter solstice he had felt a pulse of silver moon power. Distant, untrained, but unmistakable. Since then he had searched territory after territory, following every rumor, every trace, trying to find its source. Why? Russ stood abruptly and walked toward the fireplace. The flames sharpened his profile, the hard line of his jaw, the scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the tension in his shoulders. Because of a promise I made. He was silent for another moment. And because the old prophecies spoke of the marked returning during our darkest hour, a time when the packs would divide, rogues would rise, and ancient power would be needed again. That sounds like a fairy tale. Does it? He turned. 3 months ago, 5 packs reported coordinated rogue attacks, not random violence, organized raids, strategic targets. Someone is directing them. Eleanor's unease deepened. Russ continued. 2 weeks ago, they attacked a nursery. 4 pups died before we could stop them. Horror tightened her chest. Who would do that? Someone who wants the packs unstable. Someone with resources, intelligence, and a reason to hate us. His fists closed. My nephew, the cub you saved, was their next target. Eleanor went still. They killed his mother. Pain flashed across Russ's face. My sister. They intended to use her son as leverage against the council. I'm sorry. The words seemed painfully inadequate. About your sister. So am I. For a moment, Eleanor saw grief behind the Alpha King's control. She wanted to ask about his sister. The rogues. The prophecy. His 3-year search. But exhaustion was already pulling her downward. Russ noticed. Sleep. His voice softened. We'll talk when you've healed. Clearwater cannot touch you here. You're under my protection now. He said it with complete certainty. No one enters Black Ridge without my permission. You're safe here, Eleanor. Safe. The word felt almost foreign. She wanted to argue. She could not remain in an Alpha King's home. She could not depend on a stranger. And protection always came with a price. But her body refused to cooperate. Why are you helping me? She whispered. Russ returned to the chair. Because you're extraordinary, Eleanor Stevenson. His large, calloused hand settled over hers. And you don't know it yet. Her eyelids grew heavier. Sleep. I'll still be here when you wake. You don't have to. I know. His thumb moved slowly over the back of her hand. I want to. Something beneath the power in his voice sounded unexpectedly vulnerable. Eleanor closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, she fell asleep feeling protected instead of hunted. She only hoped it was not another beautiful dream waiting to break at dawn. Chapter 2. The King Who Saved Her. Eleanor woke to voices. Low. Tense. Arguing. Your Majesty, bringing an unknown wolf into the heart of our territory is reckless. She's marked, Wallace. That makes her invaluable. If she's actually marked, we only have your word. And forgive me, but you've spent years obsessed with finding a Silver Moon descendant. What if she's simply another unusually powerful wolf and you're seeing what you want to see? Eleanor kept her eyes closed. 12 years in Clearwater had taught her the value of listening before anyone realized she was awake. I know what I saw. Russ's voice was cold steel. Silver Flame doesn't lie, neither does my wolf's reaction to her. Silence. Then Wallace spoke more carefully. Your wolf's reaction? Russ's answer came lower. Almost a growl. My wolf recognized her, claimed her before I even knew her name. Eleanor's heart stumbled. So yes, she remains under my protection. That is not negotiable. The council will demand answers. They'll want her tested, questioned. The council will do exactly as I tell them, unless one of them wishes to challenge me for my title. The threat was unmistakable. Are we clear? Footsteps moved away. A door closed. Eleanor counted slowly before opening her eyes. Russ stood before the window with his back to her. Morning light touched his black hair. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, exposing muscular forearms crossed with battle scars. You can stop pretending to sleep. He did not turn. Heat climbed Eleanor's face. How did you know? Your heartbeat changed. And my breathing? Russ glanced over his shoulder. A faint smile touched his mouth. I'm an alpha king, Eleanor. I notice things. She tried to sit. Pain immediately protested through her healing ribs. Someone had changed her clothing. She wore a soft cotton shirt much too large for her. Probably Russ's. Her wounds had been cleaned and carefully bandaged. How long was I asleep? 16 hours. The healer says you need at least 3 full days of rest. He leaned against the window. But based on what I've learned about you, I expect you'll attempt to leave within 24. I shouldn't be here. Where should you be? His amusement disappeared. Back with the pack that called you cursed? With wolves who would punish you because you're powerful? His amber eyes locked onto hers. Or would you rather be dead in the snow, forgotten after sacrificing everything for a child who wasn't yours? The words were harsh. His tone wasn't. He sounded frustrated by her willingness to dismiss her own life. I don't have anywhere else to go, Eleanor admitted. Then she straightened. But I won't become a burden. Once I'm healed, I'll leave. I'll find another pack. Somewhere that needs a... She stopped. A what? What did she even have to offer? A healer? Russ suggested. Javier told me you were checking Drew for injuries while you were bleeding out. Eleanor said nothing. Or perhaps a warrior, considering you faced 4 rogues with broken ribs and no support. He stepped closer. Or a leader, because when the moment came, you made a decision that saved an innocent life and accepted the consequences. Eleanor stared at him. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Making me sound heroic. She gestured helplessly. Noble. I'm not. I'm just... The old words returned. I'm wrong, Russ. My wolf is wrong. My power is wrong. I've known that my entire life. My pack knew it. Her throat tightened. My parents knew it before they died. Russ crossed the room in 3 strides and sat on the edge of the bed. He was close enough that Eleanor smelled pine, winter air, and something wild that immediately caught her wolf's attention. You're extraordinary. Eleanor blinked. What? Say it. His eyes held hers. Say, I'm extraordinary. I can't. Russ gently caught her chin and lifted her face. I'm tired of watching you make yourself smaller. I'm tired of hearing you apologize for existing. His voice remained controlled, but emotion burned beneath it. You are marked. You are powerful. You are brave. And whether you believe it yet or not, you are exactly the kind of wolf this world needs. His touch felt like warmth returning to frozen skin. I don't understand you, she whispered. We're strangers. You know nothing about me except... I know you put yourself between rogues and an innocent child without hesitation. Russ's thumb moved across her cheek. I know you bled protecting another family's bloodline. He continued before she could speak. I know your own power terrified you, and when it mattered, you used it anyway. His gaze softened. And when I found you dying, you didn't beg me to save you. Eleanor's breath caught. You begged me to save him. He deserved to live. So do you. 3 simple words. They struck harder than anything else he had said. No one had ever spoken them to Eleanor that way, as though they believed it completely. Russ. Her voice broke. He drew back slightly, sensing that she needed room. I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I need you to understand something. His gaze stayed on hers. You're safe here. Not only physically, you're safe to be yourself. All of yourself. The silver flames too? Especially the silver flames. And what if who I am really is dangerous? A dry smile appeared. Then you'll fit in perfectly. Eleanor's mouth twitched. Russ lifted one eyebrow. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not exactly a harmless house pet. I noticed. Good. He stood. The healer will return this afternoon. Addie, Javier's mate, will bring food and clean clothes. There's a bell beside the bed. If you need anything, ring it. I don't need. I know. Russ gave her a look. You're independent, self-sufficient, accustomed to taking care of yourself. He paused at the window. Humor me. Let someone take care of you for once. Before Eleanor could answer, someone knocked. Come in. A petite woman entered carrying a tray of food. She had warm brown skin and kind eyes that immediately settled on Eleanor. Behind her, a small wolf cub padded hesitantly into the room. Eleanor's heart clenched. He was alive. Clean. Warm. His silver-gray fur had been brushed after a bath, and his bright blue eyes fixed on her with unmistakable recognition. Oh! The cub yipped. Then he raced across the room and launched himself onto the bed. The movement pulled painfully at Eleanor's ribs. Russ moved immediately. Eleanor raised one hand. I'm fine. The cub licked her fingers frantically, whining and trying to crawl underneath her arm. He's been looking for you, Addie said as she placed the food nearby. He refused to settle until we brought him here. Eleanor gathered the cub carefully against her chest. Warm, solid, alive. Something inside her finally loosened. Hey, little one. She stroked his fur. You're okay. You're safe. He made a sound halfway between a whimper and a purr before settling against her. When Eleanor looked up, Russ was watching. The expression on his face was intense, almost hungry, not threatening, more as though he wanted to memorize the sight. His name is Drew, Russ said quietly. Drew Mercer, my sister's son. He's 3, too young to shift back by himself yet. Eleanor looked from Drew to Russ. I'm sorry about your sister. He must miss her terribly. Pain crossed Russ's face before his control returned. Olivia was. His voice faltered. She was the best of us. Kind, strong, fierce when she needed to be. His jaw tightened. She deserved better than dying alone while protecting her son from monsters. She didn't die alone. Russ looked at Eleanor. She died knowing she kept him alive long enough for help to come. Eleanor held his gaze. That's not nothing, Russ. That's everything. For one instant, the Alpha King's mask cracked. She saw the grieving brother beneath it. Then he nodded. I'll let you eat. Addie can stay if you need anything. He turned. Russ. He stopped at the door. Eleanor did not know exactly what she wanted to say. Thank you. For saving us. She swallowed. And for seeing me. His hand rested against the doorframe. You saved him first. I only made sure you both survived the night. Their eyes met. And Eleanor? Yes? I always see you. His expression softened. From the moment I found you bleeding in that snow, I've seen exactly who you are. Then he left. Eleanor remained with Drew asleep against her, Addie's knowing smile, and a heart beating faster than it had any right to. He's not normally like this, Addie said casually while arranging the food. Russ? Intense? Yes. Protective of his pack? Absolutely. She gestured toward the door. But this is different. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Addie's smile was gentle. But that's fine. You just arrived, you're injured. You don't need to understand everything immediately. She moved toward the door. Then she paused. Eleanor, whatever happened before you came here, whatever your old pack taught you to believe about yourself, they were wrong. Addie met her eyes. And somewhere inside, I think you already know that. She left. Eleanor looked down at Drew. He had fallen asleep against her chest, his paws twitching faintly in dreams. Then she looked at the food. Real food. Carefully prepared. More than she could eat. Then at the bedroom. Warm. Safe. Protected. For the first time in years, Eleanor allowed herself to imagine what life might feel like if she stopped running, stopped hiding, stopped believing there was something inside her too wrong to deserve a place in the world. Snow continued beyond the window, but inside, wearing borrowed clothes, wrapped in borrowed warmth, holding a sleeping cub, while an Alpha King claimed he had searched for her for 3 years, Eleanor felt something she had believed was dead. Hope. Dangerous. Fragile. Terrifying hope. Maybe she would regret trusting it. Maybe she would discover that Russ's protection came with conditions. Maybe she would be hurt again. But right now, Eleanor allowed herself to rest. For the moment, that was enough. Chapter 3. Nightmares and Memories. The nightmare came 3 nights later. Eleanor was 13 again. Back in Clearwater territory. Her first shift tore through her body. Bones broke and reformed. Skin rippled into fur. Her senses opened violently to the world around her. Then she heard her mother's frightened voice. "Something's wrong." Her father stepped backward. "What is she?" The transformation finished. Eleanor saw herself reflected in her mother's horrified eyes. Not brown. Not gray. Not black. Silver. Pure, luminous silver. Her fur looked carved from moonlight. Beautiful. Monstrous. Wrong. Wolves had gathered around them. Eleanor remembered every face. Shock. Fear. Disgust. The whispers began almost immediately. Cursed. Unnatural. The old bloodline. Dangerous. Alpha Thomas pushed through the crowd. His expression was grave. "Eleanor Stevenson, your wolf is unusual. Until we understand what this means, you will remain in human form in public. You will not shift without explicit permission." He looked directly into the eyes of a terrified 13-year-old girl. "Do you understand?" She had wanted desperately to belong, so Eleanor said yes. And for 12 years, she kept saying yes. The nightmare changed. She was 16. Rogues had attacked during the autumn gathering. Her father, a warrior, ran to defend the pack. Her mother, a healer, followed. Eleanor had been locked inside her room. Forbidden to fight. Forbidden to help. Alpha Thomas insisted that her presence might make everything worse. She had screamed for him to release her. Begged until her throat bled. He refused. Her parents died outside while Eleanor clawed desperately at the locked door. Inside her mind, her silver wolf howled. Trapped. Powerless. Wrong. 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 Eleanor. Hands touched her shoulders. "Eleanor, wake up." A voice broke through the nightmare. Deep. Rough. Real. Her eyes snapped open. She was in the Black Ridge guest room. Sheets tangled around her legs. Her face was wet with tears. Russ knelt beside the bed. Concern filled his amber eyes. "You were screaming. I heard you down the hall." Eleanor tried to answer. A broken sob came instead. 9 years vanished. The grief felt as fresh as the day of the funeral. Russ did not hesitate. He climbed onto the bed and drew her against his chest. One hand cradled the back of her head. The other wrapped securely around her waist. His heat surrounded her. Solid. Present. Real. "Breathe." He spoke against her hair. "Just breathe. You're safe. Whatever you saw isn't here. It can't touch you here." Something inside Eleanor finally broke open. She pressed her face into his shoulder and sobbed. Years of forcing herself to remain quiet. Years of making herself smaller. Years of swallowing rage, grief, fear, and loneliness. All of it came out. Russ held her. He did not tell her to calm down. He did not try to fix her. He never once made her feel weak. He simply held her as though her pain mattered. Eventually, the storm passed. Eleanor was exhausted, empty. Then she realized Drew had climbed onto the bed. The cub pressed against her side and whimpered softly. "Sorry," Eleanor whispered. "I didn't mean to wake everyone. Don't apologize." Russ rubbed slow circles across her back. "Do you want to talk about it?" Every instinct told Eleanor to refuse. Pull away. Rebuild the walls. Return to being the woman who needed no one. But she was so tired of carrying everything alone. "My parents." Russ's arms tightened slightly. "I dreamed about the day they died." "How old were you?" 16. Her voice sounded distant. Rogues attacked during the autumn gathering. My father was a warrior. My mother was a healer. They both went out to defend the pack. She swallowed. And I was locked in my room because Alpha Thomas believed my power would make the attack worse. Russ went still. Locked? His voice turned frighteningly quiet. He imprisoned you during an attack? He said it was for my protection, that I was too young, too inexperienced, too unpredictable. Eleanor pulled back enough to see his face. He told me if I shifted or used my power, I might hurt members of the pack. He said I couldn't control myself. That I was dangerous. Were you? I don't know. A bitter laugh escaped her. I was never allowed to find out. She stared at her hands. For 12 years, Clearwater treated me like a threat. Watched me, restricted me, controlled me. Her voice shook. Whenever my wolf tried to rise, I pushed her down. Whenever I felt that power inside me, I buried it, because good wolves don't glow silver. Good wolves don't summon flames. She stopped. Russ brushed a tear from her cheek. Good wolves don't what, Eleanor? Her answer broke apart. Exist. Russ's expression hardened with pain. My parents loved me. I think they did. But they were afraid of me too. I saw it every time I shifted. She wiped at her face. They tried to hide it, but I knew. Her voice dropped. After they died, there wasn't anyone left who even pretended I belonged. Russ remained silent for a long moment. Then his voice came rough. My father was afraid of me too. Eleanor looked up. Russ stared beyond her, into an old memory. I was born during a blood moon. Rare, supposedly ominous. He exhaled. My wolf emerged when I was 11, 2 years earlier than normal. Even then, he was enormous. Russ's jaw tightened. My father was Alpha King before me. The first time he saw my wolf, he looked at me as if I were already coming for his throne. A faint, humorless smile touched his mouth. It turns out he had reason to be afraid. I challenged him when I was 17. You killed him? No. Russ met her eyes. He yielded. A shadow crossed his face. But he never forgave me for being stronger than him, for becoming what he had always wanted to be. He lived 3 more years. A heart condition eventually killed him. Russ looked down. The last thing he ever told me was that I was too powerful to be trusted. Eleanor's chest tightened. Russ. So I understand. He cupped her face. I know what it feels like when the people who should love you look at you like you're a monster. His eyes burned into hers. I know what it is to fear your own strength because everyone around you tells you that strength is wrong. He leaned closer. But here's what I learned. The people most frightened by your power are often the ones who know they could never match it. His thumbs moved gently over her cheeks. Their fear tells you about their weakness. It tells you nothing about your worth. Easy for you to say. Eleanor's voice broke. You're the Alpha King. Your power is respected, wanted, valued. She shook her head. I'm broken, Russ. My wolf doesn't feel right. My power scares me. She could almost hear Thomas again. Every time I imagine truly letting it out, I remember him telling me I'd hurt someone. You are dangerous. Eleanor stared at him. Russ smiled fiercely. You should be. She blinked. You carry the blood of the original alphas. If the old records are true, your power could probably level a city if you truly unleashed it. He held her gaze. But dangerous does not mean evil. Russ spoke slowly. A blade is dangerous. Fire is dangerous. The ocean is dangerous. That doesn't make any of them wrong. His hand covered hers. Power becomes destructive or protective depending on the person using it. How can you know I won't hurt someone? Because I saw you dying in the snow. Russ did not hesitate. You used what might have been your final breath to ask me to save a child. He glanced toward Drew. Because Drew trusts you completely. His eyes returned to hers. And because when your power finally broke free, it didn't destroy everything around you. It formed a barrier between those rogues and someone innocent. His voice softened. That wasn't lack of control, Eleanor. Then what was it? Instinct. Russ smiled. Pure protective instinct. Eleanor wanted to believe him so badly that it hurt. What if you're wrong about me? Her voice dropped to a whisper. What if the prophecy is wrong? What if I'm simply a mistake? A wolf that should have disappeared with the rest of the marked. Russ leaned forward until his forehead touched hers. Then you're the most magnificent mistake I've ever seen. Eleanor's breath caught. But I don't think you're a mistake. His voice was quiet. I think you're exactly what you're supposed to be. Russ's eyes hardened. And I think Clearwater spent years trying to kill your spirit, because somewhere inside, they knew what would happen if you ever learned to believe in yourself. Drew yipped softly. Eleanor laughed despite the tears. You're very good at speeches. Russ smiled. It's an Alpha King requirement. Feeling better? He asked. A little. And she was. The nightmare had loosened its grip. Thank you. Russ began to draw back, then stopped. I know we've only known each other 3 days. Something in his expression changed. But there's something you need to understand. Eleanor's heartbeat quickened. What? When I found you in the snow, my wolf didn't only recognize your power. His gaze became intensely personal. He recognized you. What does that mean? It means you specifically. Russ's voice lowered, as though he'd been waiting his entire life for you. The room seemed suddenly too small. Wolves mate for life, Eleanor. She stopped breathing. When we find our mate, our wolves know. His eyes held hers. Immediately, completely, without doubt. Eleanor could not finish the question forming in her throat. Russ answered anyway. My wolf has claimed you. And I'm trying very hard to give you space, time to heal, time to understand what you've learned about yourself. His jaw tightened. It's taking almost every ounce of control I have, not to make this more difficult for you. Eleanor's mind spun. Mates. The bond that was supposed to be sacred, permanent, unbreakable. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. Russ stood carefully. Not now. He ran a hand through his hair. I simply needed you to know, so if you're ever ready, you'll understand why I can't watch you walk into danger and do nothing. Why you'll fight for me. Why you matter to me in ways I'm not explaining very well. Eleanor sat straighter, ignoring the protest from her healing ribs. Russ, I don't know how to be someone's mate. Her voice cracked. I don't even know how to be comfortable inside my own skin. You don't need to become anything. Russ moved toward the door. Be yourself. He looked back. The woman who saved Drew. The woman who faced 4 rogues with broken bones and courage. The woman who can call silver fire from her hands and still doesn't understand how extraordinary she is. His expression softened. That's the woman I want. Scars, fear, doubt, all of it. He left before Eleanor found an answer. Drew remained curled against her side. Her mind raced. Mates. Russ believed they were mates. Her wolf pushed insistently against Eleanor's consciousness. For once, Eleanor did not force her back. She let the silver wolf rise. Let herself feel the connection she had been avoiding. And suddenly she understood. Her wolf recognized Russ too. Knew him. Wanted him with a force that stole Eleanor's breath. It was real. And Eleanor had absolutely no idea what to do with that truth. She looked down at the sleeping cub. Your uncle is going to be the death of me. Drew's tail wagged once in his sleep. A small smile touched Eleanor's mouth. Maybe being someone's mate did not require perfection. Maybe it only required enough courage to let another person truly see you. Eleanor had survived rogues. She had bled for a stranger's child. She had survived 12 years in a pack determined to break her spirit. Surely she could find enough courage for this too. Chapter 4. The Ancient Circle Awakens. Eleanor had been at Black Ridge for a week when Russ asked her to walk with him. Her ribs had healed enough that movement no longer stole her breath. The wound in her side had closed into an angry pink scar. Addie had found proper clothes for her. Soft leggings, a thick sweater, fur-lined boots. Everything fit as though it had been chosen specifically for Eleanor. "Where are we going?" Drew trotted beside them in wolf form. The cub now refused to stay away from Eleanor for more than a few hours. "Somewhere you need to see," Russ said. His breath clouded the winter air. "And somewhere that may help you understand what you are." Anxiety tightened Eleanor's stomach. She had spent most of the week avoiding that subject. The prophecy, her bloodline, the mate bond. Whatever destiny Russ believed was waiting for her. He had given Eleanor space, but she constantly felt his awareness of her. He noticed when she moved, checked whether she was healing, made sure she ate. It should have been suffocating. Instead, it felt safe. They walked deeper into Black Ridge territory. Eleanor noticed things she had never seen in Clearwater. The paths were maintained. Trees were cut selectively instead of stripped away. Protection wards had been carved carefully into certain trunks. She recognized some symbols from her mother's healing work. "You take care of the land." "The land takes care of us," Russ replied. "Returning the favor seems reasonable." Clearwater wasn't like this. Russ looked at her. Thomas believed in dominating nature instead of working with it. He clear-cut sections for money, overhunted the game, let pollution from nearby towns enter our streams. Her voice hardened. "My mother fought with him about it constantly. She told him we were killing the land that kept us alive." "She sounds intelligent." She was. Eleanor's throat tightened. "She taught me everything she knew about herbs, healing, and the old ways." A sad smile touched her face. "She always said that even if Clearwater didn't value those things, I should learn them anyway. Knowledge was power they couldn't take from me." Russ remained silent for a moment. "She sounds like she loved you very much." "She did." Eleanor kicked lightly at the snow. "But she was still afraid." She stared ahead. "Love and fear can live in the same heart. I learned that young." They reached the crest of a hill. Eleanor stopped. A hidden valley stretched below them, enclosed by ancient pines. At its center stood a circle of enormous stones. Each one was taller than a man. Age had worn their surfaces, but the symbols carved into them remained. Even under daylight, Eleanor thought she could see faint light pulsing inside those markings. A stone altar stood at the center beneath a layer of snow. "What is this?" "The Moonstone Circle." Russ started down the hill. "It was built by the first wolves, more than 1,000 years ago." His voice carried reverence. "One of only 3 sacred sites still standing in the territories. My ancestors have protected it for generations." Eleanor followed. Her wolf became increasingly restless. The closer they moved, the stronger the strange energy became. Electric. Dangerous. Alive. Drew whimpered and pressed himself against Eleanor's leg. "It's okay." She was not sure she believed her own words. They crossed into the circle. Everything changed. Power thickened the air. The symbols carved into the stones began to glow. Not reflected sunlight. Their own light. Silver. Exactly the color of Eleanor's wolf. "Russ." Her voice trembled. "What's happening?" He stood beside the altar. Awe filled his face, and something that looked almost like vindication. "The circle recognizes you." "What?" "It hasn't responded to anyone in more than 200 years. Eleanor took another step. The light intensified. Then her skin began to answer. Silver flames appeared along her arms. No heat, no pain, only pure, radiant energy. "I don't understand." "Look at the altar." Eleanor approached slowly with Drew beside her. The stone was covered in ancient carvings. Wolves running beneath a full moon. Figures lifting their hands and calling down light. Battles, births, deaths. An entire history carved together. Then Eleanor saw the center. A woman stood with both arms extended. Silver fire poured from her hands. Around her was chaos, darkness, destruction, falling wolves. Where her light touched, the darkness retreated. Where the flames reached, life returned. Above the woman was ancient writing. Eleanor struggled to read it. She who bridges the light and the dark shall restore balance when all seems lost. The silver moon prophecy, Russ said. He came beside her. It was written by the first Alpha King 1,000 years ago. Eleanor stared at the carving. He foresaw a time when the packs would begin falling into darkness, rogues would rise, wolves would forget the old ways. Russ looked at Eleanor, and one of the marked would return. Her hands started trembling. That's not me. It might be. No. She backed away. I'm not some savior. I found a child being attacked and couldn't walk away. That's not destiny. That's basic decency. Russ's amber eyes held hers. Maybe. He looked toward Drew. Or perhaps the universe put you exactly where you needed to be. Eleanor shook her head. You saved Drew, Eleanor. His expression became serious. Drew is the final heir of the Black Ridge bloodline. If he had died, my family line would have ended. The implications began to form. The largest pack in the Northern Territories could have descended into chaos. Eleanor stared at him, which is exactly what whoever organized those attacks wanted. Pieces moved together in Eleanor's mind. You really believe someone is deliberately destabilizing the packs? I know it. Russ counted the attacks. 5 coordinated strikes in 3 months. Always leaders, heirs, sacred places, heirs, sacred places. Always creating fear and confusion. Someone wants us divided, Russ said, too busy fighting each other to recognize the real threat. What threat? I don't know. He gestured toward the altar. But the prophecy doesn't say rogues will destroy us. His voice lowered. It says darkness will rise. Eleanor felt cold despite the silver flames around her arms. Something older? Something our ancestors once fought and sealed away. You think it's waking? Russ looked toward the ancient stones. I think it already has. And the rogues? Pawns. His jaw tightened. Tools being used to weaken us before the real attack begins. The weight of the possibility pressed heavily onto Eleanor. She stared again at the woman carved into the altar, standing alone against impossible darkness. I can't be her. Russ said nothing. I don't know how to save anyone from something like that. I barely know how to control this. Silver light trembled over her skin. I spent 12 years suppressing my power. Her voice became small. What if I fight and fail? What if I hurt people? Russ took both of her hands. The silver flames wrapped around his skin without burning him. You don't need to be perfect. His fingers tightened gently around hers. You don't need every answer. What do I need? Willingness to try. And if I don't? Sadness entered his smile. Then we face whatever comes without the advantage the prophecy promised. He did not soften the truth. And wolves will probably die. Eleanor flinched. But I won't force you. Russ held her gaze. This decision must belong to you. Eleanor looked at their joined hands. Her flames curled around Russ almost protectively. Then her wolf surged forward. A vision slammed into her mind. She stood inside this circle, but the stones were no longer worn. They were whole. Bright. Hundreds of wolves surrounded her. Maybe thousands. Across a field filled with ash and bone stood something enormous. Something wrong. Something that should never have existed in the waking world. Living shadow. Darkness given shape. In the vision, Eleanor did not move backward. She lifted both hands. Silver flames erupted like an enormous wave and crashed against the darkness. Then the vision shattered. Eleanor gasped. Her knees buckled. Russ caught her. What happened? He wrapped his arms around her waist. What did you see? I saw. Eleanor struggled for breath. War. Russ went still. I saw something terrible coming. She looked at her hands. And I saw myself fighting it. Did you win? I don't know. It ended before I could see. Fear and wonder fought inside her. Russ, what if this really is happening? He touched her cheek. Then you won't face it alone. His voice held absolute conviction. I'll stand beside you. Black Ridge will stand beside you. We'll find wolves who still remember the old ways. Wolves who aren't frightened simply because your power is different. Why? The question burst from Eleanor. Why would you risk everything for me? For a prophecy that might not even be real? Because I've seen your heart. His thumb brushed lightly across her lips. I've seen what you become when you're injured, terrified, and cornered. Russ's gaze never wavered. And because my wolf chose you before I knew your name. The mate bond pulsed between them. Destiny, instinct, luck. I don't care what anyone calls it. His voice dropped. I choose you. The prophecy only confirms what I already knew. Inside the sacred circle, Eleanor could feel him through the bond more clearly than ever. His determination, his fierce need to protect, his absolute certainty that she was worth fighting for. And beneath all of it, something warmer, deeper. Her wolf whined with longing, love. Russ was falling in love with her. Maybe he already had. I'm scared. Good. Eleanor blinked. Russ leaned his forehead against hers. Fear means you understand what this could cost. His voice softened. Just don't let fear choose for you. He glanced toward Drew. Let the woman who saved that child choose. Then back to Eleanor, the one who stood against rogues, the one who survived 12 years of being told she was wrong. Drew yipped and danced between them. Eleanor looked at the cub. Then the altar. Then Russ. She remembered her mother teaching her healing while Clearwater mocked the old ways. Her father telling stories of the original alphas. All those years Eleanor had made herself smaller. All the times she buried her wolf. And then she remembered the snow. The cub. The moment protecting him had mattered more than her fear. That choice had been instinctive. Maybe this could be too. I don't know how to become whatever this prophecy expects. Russ waited. But I know how to protect people. Eleanor took a shaking breath. I know how to stand against something evil even when I'm terrified. Her voice strengthened. And I know I don't want anyone else growing up the way I did. How? Feeling wrong, unwanted, afraid of their own strength. Russ smiled. It transformed his harsh face. Then that's enough. You make this sound simple. It is simple. He pulled her closer. Not easy. Simple. His arms closed around her. You're not alone anymore. You don't have to carry everything yourself. The silver fire brightened. This time Eleanor did not suppress it. She allowed it to burn, to dance, to fill the ancient circle with the light it had not seen in 200 years. The stones began to sing. A clear resonance like distant crystal bells. Drew threw back his head and howled. Russ held Eleanor through it all, unmoved, unfrightened. When the flames eventually faded, Eleanor felt different. Not necessarily stronger, more complete, as though pieces of herself she had locked away were finally returning. What happens now? Now we prepare. Russ became serious again. I'll call a council meeting. You'll be introduced formally to Black Ridge. We'll train your abilities, study the old histories. His expression darkened. And we'll prepare for whatever is coming. Eleanor nodded. Okay. She inhaled slowly. I'll try. That's all I'm asking. Russ kissed her forehead. Thank you for choosing courage, Eleanor. Snow began to fall again as they stood together in the circle. Drew curled on the altar. Eleanor allowed herself to lean into Russ. Then a raven cried somewhere beyond the trees. Harsh. Discordant. Her wolf immediately bristled. Russ tensed. What is it? I don't know. Something. She never finished. Wolves emerged from the forest. A dozen. Perhaps more. Not rogues. Clear water wolves. At their head walked a gray wolf streaked with white. Cold, calculating eyes fixed directly on Eleanor. Alpha Thomas. He shifted as he reached the circle. His wolves spread behind him. Eleanor Stevenson. His voice carried across the sacred ground. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Chapter 5. When the past comes calling. Eleanor's blood turned cold. Alpha Thomas looked exactly as she remembered him. Tall, broad-shouldered, silver hair, gray eyes that had never contained warmth when they looked at her. Authority fit him like a second skin. Behind him, Clearwater wolves formed orderly ranks. Obedient, controlled, and, Eleanor now realized, terrified of disappointing him. She recognized several. Brad, 2 years above her during training. Sandy, who had once been kind before kindness toward Eleanor became too dangerous. Another young wolf named Glenn. Not Russ's Glenn. This one was younger and meaner. Every pair of eyes watched Eleanor as though she were prey. Russ immediately moved in front of her. Alpha Thomas. His tone was calm. You are far from Clearwater, and you're standing on my territory without invitation or permission. My apologies, Alpha King. Nothing in Thomas's voice sounded apologetic. But this is an internal pack matter. His eyes found Eleanor. Eleanor remains one of my wolves. She left without proper release from her obligations. He smiled faintly. I'm here to collect what belongs to Clearwater and take her home. I'm not yours. The words left Eleanor before fear could stop them. Thomas's eyes narrowed. I was never yours. You made that clear for 12 years. You were under my protection. I was under your control. Eleanor stepped out from behind Russ despite the warning growl in his chest. Her hands shook. She kept them at her sides. There's a difference. Thomas's expression hardened. You locked me away. You forbade me to shift. She forced herself to continue. You let my parents die while I begged you to let me help them. Pain tore through her. You don't get to call that protection. I kept you safe. No. Silver light sparked at Eleanor's fingertips. You kept yourself safe from me. Thomas went still. Because you knew. Her anger fed the sparks. If I ever learned to use my power, I might become stronger than you. Thomas's face reddened. And you couldn't tolerate that. How dare you speak to your alpha with that level of disrespect? She speaks the truth. Russ's voice cut through the circle. And truth does not require your permission. He stepped beside Eleanor. She is under my protection. She has chosen to leave Clearwater. Unless you've filed a legitimate grievance with the Northern Council, this discussion is finished. I have every right to reclaim a pack member who fled. Fled? Eleanor laughed bitterly. I was bleeding to death in the snow after saving a child from rogues you failed to stop. She stared at him. That isn't fleeing. That's surviving. Sandy shifted uncomfortably behind Thomas. Good. Let them remember. While Eleanor had been dying for an innocent child, they had remained behind Thomas's walls. Thomas's jaw clenched. You remain bound under Clearwater law. Not anymore. Russ stepped forward. The air itself seemed colder. Your authority ended the moment she entered my territory. His voice became harder. And even if it hadn't, Eleanor is one of the marked silver moon blood. Thomas's eyes shifted. That places her under ancient law, not ordinary pack law. She answers to the Council of Alphas. Russ's gaze sharpened. Not to you. Eleanor saw calculation flash in Thomas's eyes, and suddenly she understood. He had known. Maybe not everything, but enough. That was why he had spent 12 years suppressing her, keeping her afraid. The marked are extinct, Thomas said. There was no conviction behind the words. Clearly not. Russ gestured toward the faintly glowing stones. The moonstone circle recognizes her. The prophecy recognizes her. Then he looked directly at Thomas. And I recognize her. Your opinion is irrelevant. Thomas's expression hardened. You would risk conflict between packs over one wolf? He turned toward Eleanor. She's damaged goods, Mercer. Unstable. Dangerous. I spent years attempting to teach her control. A cruel smile. She never learned. Russ became unnaturally still. What makes you believe you'll succeed where I failed? Because I'm not trying to break her. His words carried across the valley like thunder. I'm helping her remember she was never broken. Emotion tightened Eleanor's throat. No one had ever defended her like this. No one had ever stood between Eleanor and an authority figure and simply said no. You cannot hurt her anymore. Thomas's face darkened. I came peacefully. I was willing to take her back, despite her disobedience. Russ's expression made his answer obvious. But if you insist on keeping her, you're declaring Eleanor a member of Black Ridge. Thomas smiled coldly. Any crime she commits, any destruction she causes, any instability she creates becomes your responsibility. His gaze fixed on Russ. Are you prepared for that, Alpha King? Absolutely. Russ did not hesitate. Eleanor has my full protection and the support of Black Ridge Pack. He stepped forward. If someone objects, they may bring the issue before the Northern Council. His power pressed through the circle. Until then, she stays. And you leave. Clearwater wolves shifted nervously. They had expected to retrieve an isolated pack member, not confront the Alpha King inside his own territory. But Thomas was not finished. Perhaps Eleanor should answer for herself. He looked past Russ. She's lived in Clearwater her entire life. She knows our traditions, our ways. His voice softened deliberately. Her memories of her parents are there. Eleanor's chest tightened. Is she truly prepared to abandon 25 years of history for a stranger she's known for 7 days? The words struck exactly where Thomas intended. Doubt slipped into Eleanor's mind. Cold. Quiet. 7 days. She had known Russ for 1 week. Clearwater had been her world for 25 years. What if this was infatuation? What if the mate bond was distorting her judgment? What if she was making the worst mistake of her life? Eleanor. Russ's voice was soft enough that it seemed meant only for her. She looked at him. You don't have to decide anything because of me. His expression held no demand. If you choose Clearwater, I'll let you go. Thomas looked surprised. But if you want to stay here, learn about your power, understand your heritage, and be seen for who you actually are. Russ extended his hand. Stay. His voice lowered. And I will stand between you and anyone who ever tries to make you ashamed of yourself again. Eleanor looked at Thomas, the alpha who controlled her for 12 years. The man who left her locked away while her parents died. The man whose fear had become the voice inside Eleanor's head. Then she looked at Russ, the man who carried her broken body through a storm, who sat beside her bed, who held her through nightmares, who looked at her silver flames and saw beauty instead of corruption. The choice should have been impossible. It wasn't. I'm staying. Her voice was stronger than she expected. Thomas's face tightened. I'm staying with Black Ridge. She looked at Russ. I'm staying with Russ. Then back at Thomas. And I'm finished letting you make me ashamed of what I am. You're making a mistake. Maybe. Eleanor stepped forward. But it's mine to make. Her spine straightened. You don't own me. You never did. Thomas's mouth twisted. You ungrateful. Careful. A growl entered Russ's voice. You're still standing on my land. He moved half a step closer. And an insult against someone under my protection is an insult against me. Violence thickened the air. Several Clearwater wolves prepared to shift. Drew whimpered from the altar. The small, frightened sound cut through Eleanor. Suddenly every doubt disappeared. You want to know why I left? Silver flames erupted around her hands. Several Clearwater wolves stumbled backward. Because I'd rather die free than live as your prisoner. The fire climbed her arms. I would rather risk everything beside wolves who see value in me than spend another day with wolves who see only flaws. Her voice grew stronger. When rogues were murdering children, I fought. She stared at Thomas. What did you do? Silence. Nothing. Silver power filled the circle. You've done nothing except keep wolves like me frightened, small, and controllable. The moonstone circle responded. Ancient carvings blazed. This is what I am. Eleanor's voice took on that strange layered resonance. I am marked. I carry silver moon blood. The flames brightened. And I'm done apologizing for being powerful. Thomas stared. So you have two choices. Eleanor took another step. Accept that and leave peacefully. Her eyes flashed silver. Or challenge me here. The entire circle became silent. And discover what 12 years of suppressed power looks like when it finally breaks free. Thomas stared at her as though he were seeing Eleanor for the first time. Behind him, his wolves froze. Their loyalty to Thomas warred with their instincts before Eleanor's unmistakable power. You've changed, Thomas finally said. No. Eleanor smiled sharply. I stopped pretending to be what you wanted. For several seconds she believed he might challenge her. She could see wounded pride. Fury. The humiliation of losing control over someone he had once dominated. But Thomas was also a survivor, and survivors recognized when they were outmatched. This isn't over. He shifted. His pack followed. The council will hear what happened here. They'll hear that the Alpha King is harboring a dangerous wolf, making claims about an extinct bloodline, interfering with pack hierarchy. Russ smiled without warmth. Good. Thomas's wolf paused. I look forward to explaining how you suppressed and abused one of the marked for more than a decade. Russ's smile showed teeth. I'm sure the council will find that extremely interesting, Thomas snarled. But he retreated. The Clearwater wolves disappeared between the trees. Only Sandy stopped. At the edge of the forest, she shifted back. Eleanor! Tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry. Eleanor froze. For not being brave enough. For never speaking up. Sandy swallowed. I'm glad you escaped. Then she disappeared after the others. The instant Clearwater vanished. Eleanor's legs failed. Russ caught her before she hit the snow. I've got you. He pulled her against his chest. You're okay. I can't believe I just did that. Her entire body shook. I threatened an alpha. I could have started a war. You stood your ground. Russ lifted her face. You claimed your power. His eyes filled with pride. You chose yourself. I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Russ wiped a tear from her cheek. It's choosing to act anyway. He glanced toward the forest. You just told the wolf who abused you that he has no authority over you anymore. His voice softened. That's not nothing, Eleanor. Drew hurried down from the altar and pressed himself against her side. Eleanor wrapped an arm around the cub. What happens now? Thomas goes to the council. Russ's expression became grim. He'll try turning them against both of us. Can he? He can try. Russ helped Eleanor stand. The council knows I don't make claims casually. Once they understand what Thomas did, how he spent years suppressing one of the marked because of his own insecurity, they may not be eager to defend him. You don't know that. No. Russ looked directly into her eyes. But I know I'll fight for you. His grip tightened. And Black Ridge will fight for you. They started toward the house with Drew following close behind. Eleanor felt emptied. Confronting Thomas had consumed almost everything she had. But beneath the exhaustion was something unfamiliar. Pride. She had faced him. She had claimed herself. And she was still here. Russ? Yeah? Thank you for letting me handle it. He looked at her. For not taking control. For not fighting my battle for me. Russ kissed her temple. You're more than capable of fighting your own battles. His arm remained securely around her. I'm simply here to make sure you never have to fight them alone. Warmth spread through Eleanor. Not the mate bond. Something gentler. Something deeper. Trust. And perhaps the beginning of love. They were halfway to the house when Javier burst between the trees. Your Majesty. His expression was urgent. We have a problem. Russ tensed. What kind? 3 packs submitted formal petitions to the council. Javier glanced apologetically at Eleanor. They're demanding an emergency session. Her stomach dropped. About me. Javier nodded. They're calling you an uncontrolled marked wolf operating inside the Northern Territories. That was fast, Eleanor whispered. Russ's jaw tightened. Thomas sent the petitions before confronting us. He wanted support already waiting. When? 3 days. Javier looked at Russ. At the gathering grounds, the council is demanding your personal attendance. His gaze moved toward Eleanor, and they're demanding Eleanor appear too. The weight of what was coming settled over her. Facing Thomas was one thing. Now she would stand before an entire council of powerful alphas. Wolves raised on centuries of stories claiming the marked were dangerous. Extinct. Better left buried in history. This had become larger than Eleanor. The council would decide whether the ancient bloodline had a place in the modern world. Whether power beyond ordinary hierarchy could be allowed to exist. Whether Eleanor Stevenson had the right to live freely. Or whether she should be bound and suppressed exactly as Thomas had suppressed her for 12 years. Eleanor found Russ's hand. I suppose we have 3 days to prepare. His fingers closed around hers. 3 days. His eyes burned with determination. Then we show them what the marked are actually capable of. Eleanor looked at him. For 12 years she had been afraid. For 12 years she made herself smaller. If the council wanted to see what happened when powerful things were caged for too long, then Eleanor would show them. And this time, she would not hide. Chapter 6. Learning to Trust Again. Eleanor could not sleep that night. She stood at the bedroom window while snow drifted across Black Ridge. Her mind replayed everything. Thomas, the Clearwater Wolves. Her own voice declaring that she was finished being ashamed. She had been brave in the moment, but courage during confrontation seemed easier than facing what came next. 3 days until the council. 3 days before powerful alphas would examine her, judge her, perhaps condemn her. A soft knock interrupted the spiral of thoughts. Come in. Eleanor already knew who stood outside. The mate bond had become a warm, persistent awareness at the edge of her mind. Russ entered carrying 2 mugs. He wore loose sleep pants and a simple shirt. His dark hair was damp from a shower. Without the formal presence of the Alpha King, he seemed younger, more approachable, and somehow more dangerous to Eleanor's heart. Couldn't sleep either. He handed her a mug. Chamomile. Addie insists it works. Eleanor breathed in the steam. Too much in my head. Want to tell me? Russ leaned against the window beside her. I keep thinking about Sandy. Eleanor stared at the falling snow. She used to be kind when we were children. Her fingers tightened around the cup. Then everyone became frightened of me. She considered the memory. Maybe Sandy wasn't cruel exactly. She simply stopped being there. Fear does that. Russ took a drink. People choose safety instead of kindness. I'm sorry you had to live with that. Eleanor turned. Are you afraid of me? Russ looked at her. My power, what I might become. Honestly? Yes. I'm terrified. The answer shocked her. But not because of your power. Russ faced her completely. I'm terrified I'll fail you. His hand touched her cheek. That, whatever is coming will hurt you, because I wasn't fast enough, smart enough, ruthless enough. His thumb brushed lightly over her skin. I'm terrified I'll lose you before I've really had the chance to have you. Eleanor stopped breathing. Russ, I know this is fast. His voice was low. I know we've barely known one another by ordinary standards. The bond warmed between them. But our wolves don't operate by ordinary standards. He smiled faintly. And every day I learn something new about you that makes this worse. Worse? Makes me fall harder. Eleanor's cheeks warmed. Like what? Every morning, you check on Drew before yourself. Russ counted quietly. You apologize to plants before harvesting them for medicine. Her eyes widened. And you hum when you think no one's listening. I do not. You do. His smile turned tender. A soft little melody. I heard it while you were reorganizing the herb room. He leaned closer. It's beautiful. Eleanor looked away. You're beautiful. His voice changed. And I'm terrified one day you'll realize you deserve someone better than a wolf who fought his way to a crown. Eleanor immediately set her mug aside. She took Russ's face between both hands. You didn't murder your way into power. His expression shifted. You earned your position through strength, yes. She held his gaze. But you also care for your pack. You make difficult decisions. You risked political conflict to protect someone who needed you. Russ gave a small, humorless smile. You make it sound noble. It is noble. Eleanor's voice softened. And I'm scared too. Russ became still. The mate bond scares me. Destiny scares me. Prophecies I don't understand scare me. She swallowed. I'm afraid I'll hurt you, disappoint you, fail when everyone needs me. Her eyes filled. But I'm more frightened by the idea of leaving and spending the rest of my life wondering what this could have become. Hope ignited in Russ's eyes. Eleanor inhaled. I want to try. The words were quiet. I want to find out where this goes. She touched his cheek. Not because of prophecy, not because anyone says I'm supposed to. Her voice trembled. But because when I'm with you, I don't feel wrong. Russ stared at her. I feel like maybe... She smiled through sudden tears. Maybe I could actually be right. Russ lowered his head slowly. He gave Eleanor every chance to move away. Can I kiss you? Her heart hammered. Yes. His lips touched hers. Soft. Careful. As though Eleanor were something precious. She closed her eyes and leaned closer, one hand sliding into his hair. The kiss deepened gradually. Chamomile. Warmth. Promise. Russ's hands settled around her waist. The mate bond flared. Not overwhelming. Not frightening. Right. Like pieces that had been separated finally fitting together. When they parted, both were breathing harder. I've wanted to do that since you threatened Thomas with silver flames. Eleanor laughed. That was the moment? Russ pressed his forehead against hers. Watching you claim your power while looking absolutely magnificent. His smile deepened. Yes, that was definitely the moment. They remained together in the quiet room. Then Drew howled from somewhere down the hall. The sound was small. Frightened. Eleanor pulled away. Nightmare. I think so. I should go. I know. Russ kissed her forehead. He needs you. Eleanor hesitated. Will you come? Russ's smile answered before his voice did. They found Drew pacing inside the nursery Russ had arranged for him. Soft blankets. Toys. A small bed designed like a wolf den. The cub trembled. Eleanor knelt. Hey, little one. Bad dreams? Drew yipped and threw himself into her arms. She sat on the floor, back against the wall, holding him against her chest. Russ lowered himself beside her until their shoulders touched. Your mama loved you so much, Eleanor whispered while stroking Drew's fur. She fought very hard to keep you safe. His whimpering slowly quieted. And she would be proud of you. Those blue eyes looked up. You're going to grow up strong and kind. Eleanor smiled. Like your uncle. Russ's hand found hers. And when you're older, I'll tell you about your mother. How fierce she was. How much she loved you. Her voice softened. How she gave everything to protect you. Eleanor looked toward Russ. Tears moved silently down his cheeks. "Thank you," he whispered. "For loving him, for giving him something I couldn't." "What?" Softness. Russ looked at Drew. "I can protect him, train him, teach him strength." His voice roughened. "But you make him feel safe enough to grieve." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "Then we'll do it together." Russ looked at her. "You give him strength, I'll give him softness." She smiled. "Between us, maybe he can grow up whole. We're a good team." "Yeah." Eleanor looked down at the sleeping cub. "We are." She did not want to move. For one quiet moment, they looked almost like a family. "Tell me about Olivia." Russ went silent. Eleanor waited. "She was 5 years younger than me." A sad smile appeared. From the day she was born, she carried this light. Joy came naturally to her. He looked toward Drew. "Our father mostly ignored her, because she wasn't male and couldn't inherit his title." Russ's expression darkened. "Our mother died when Olivia was 3, so I raised her as much as I could, made sure she ate, taught her to fight, protected her from our father's moods. She was lucky to have you. I was lucky to have her." Russ's eyes became distant. "She reminded me that power did not require cruelty, that strength could also be gentle." He swallowed. "When she told me she was pregnant, I was terrified." A faint smile. "She wasn't. She was happier than I'd ever seen her." His voice cracked. "And after Drew was born, she looked complete." Eleanor rested her head on his shoulder. "The rogues knew when to attack." Russ's body tightened. "I was 3 territories away at a council meeting. Most of my strongest warriors were with me." His gaze remained fixed on Drew. Olivia had 2 guards. He exhaled slowly. "She held the rogues off for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Long enough for Drew to hide." His voice faltered. "By the time my wolves arrived, she was—" He couldn't finish. Eleanor understood. "I'm sorry. I should have been there. You can't be everywhere. I should have protected her." "Russ." Eleanor turned toward him. She knew the risks. Her voice was firm. "And she fought anyway, because that's what love does." She nodded toward Drew. "You're honoring her now, by raising him, by making sure he grows up knowing what she sacrificed." Russ looked at her. "That's not failure." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "That's love." He kissed her, not carefully this time. The kiss was deeper, more desperate. As though he needed Eleanor to pull him away from the memory. She kissed him back. Comfort, understanding, acceptance, want. Drew shifted slightly and made a small protesting sound. They separated immediately. "Sorry, little man," Russ murmured. Eventually, Eleanor's eyelids became heavy. "Stay." She looked at Russ. "Sleep here tonight." His voice was quiet. "We'll keep the nightmares away together." Eleanor knew she should refuse. Maintain boundaries. Distance. Instead, "Okay." Russ placed Drew gently inside his small bed and tucked the blankets around him. Then he stretched out beside Eleanor on the floor and drew her against his chest. "This okay?" Eleanor listened to his heartbeat, Drew's breathing, the quiet house. Perfect. And it was. "Eleanor?" Russ sounded half asleep. "When all this is over, the council, the rogues, whatever else is coming, I'm going to court you properly." A smile touched her mouth. "I'm taking you on dates. I'm showing you every beautiful place in Black Ridge." His arms tightened. "I'm going to make you believe you deserve every good thing this world has to offer." Eleanor's throat tightened. "I'd like that." "Good." Russ kissed her hair. "Sleep. I've got you." Surrounded by warmth and the uncertain beginning of love, Eleanor finally slept. The following 2 days passed quickly. Russ gathered the advisors he trusted most. Javier, his beta, Wallace, his second, and Addie, who apparently understood pack politics better than almost anyone. They planned for every possibility the council might raise. but Russ still made time to train Eleanor. Every morning, they worked in a clearing away from the main house. Your power reacts to emotion, Russ explained. Fear makes it explosive. Anger makes it destructive. Eleanor looked at her hands. What does calm do? Find out. She closed her eyes. Instead of burying the power as she had done for 12 years, she reached toward it, invited it forward, gently. Silver light formed over her palms. Steady. Controlled. Good, Russ said. Hold it there. Eleanor focused. Don't force it brighter. Don't let it disappear. Just exist with it. The fire rested against her skin. For the first time, her power did not feel foreign. It felt like breathing. How does it feel? Russ asked. Like. Eleanor opened her eyes. The flames danced beautifully over her palms. Like I was always supposed to do this. Russ smiled with pride. Because you were. He walked closer. This isn't wrong, Eleanor. His voice softened. This is you when you're whole. They trained for hours. Eleanor learned to alter the shape and strength of the flames. She formed barriers, weapons. Eventually, a sword made entirely from silver fire. Russ watched with fascination. The old texts claim the marked could perform extraordinary things. Like heal mortal injuries, communicate with the moon, bridge the boundary between life and death. Eleanor allowed the sword to dissolve. That's terrifying. Russ pulled her close. That's extraordinary. He kissed her forehead. And you're going to show the council the difference. Afternoons belonged to Addie. She taught Eleanor council politics. Which alphas could be persuaded? Which would resist? Craig Stevens of Riverside lost his daughter to rogues last year, Addie explained. He may listen if you offer a way to stop the attacks. And who won't? Wilson Knapp of Ironwood. Traditional, conservative. He'll view you as a threat to established order. Wonderful. Eleanor sighed. So half of them will hate me before I speak. Not hate. Addie's expression became serious. Fear. That's better? Fear can change if you prove you aren't their enemy. Addie leaned closer. They want safety, stability, peace. Do I want those things? Don't you? Eleanor thought of Drew waking from nightmares. Sandy apologizing after years of silence. Every wolf who had suffered because leaders like Thomas preferred control to compassion. I want more than that. Addie waited. I want power to be judged by how it's used, not by how unusual it looks. Eleanor's voice strengthened. I want wolves like me to grow up without hiding. She thought of Drew. And I want children to feel safe and loved instead of being destroyed by rogues and politics. Addie smiled. Then tell them exactly that. Her eyes warmed. Don't show them someone who wants to destroy their world. Show them someone trying to save it. Evenings belonged to Drew. He was healing. His grief remained, but it was slowly becoming something a child could carry. He followed Eleanor everywhere. Every time she looked at him, she remembered why any of this mattered. At night, she slept in Russ's arms. The bond between them strengthened through quiet conversations, shared breaths, and stolen kisses. On the final night before the council, Russ found Eleanor outside on the balcony. A full moon cast silver light over the snow. Nervous? Terrified. She looked at him. What if I fail tomorrow? Russ came beside her. What if my power gets away from me? She swallowed. What if they decide I'm too dangerous? Then I stand with you. Russ turned Eleanor toward him. Whatever happens, you won't face it by yourself. His hands framed her face. If anyone tries to hurt you, they go through me first. That's what scares me. Russ frowned. I don't want you sacrificing everything because of me. You're not a sacrifice. His answer came immediately. You're a choice. The easiest one I've ever made. His thumb brushed across her lips. My wolf chose you first. Russ's expression softened. But it isn't only my wolf anymore. Eleanor's heart stopped. It's me. His voice was barely above a whisper. All of me. The bond between them pulsed. I'm falling in love with you, Eleanor Stevenson. His amber eyes searched hers. Maybe I already have. Tears filled Eleanor's eyes. I don't know how to do this. How to be loved. How to believe I deserve it. Russ kissed her forehead. Then let me teach you. Another kiss touched her cheek. Then the other. Let me show you every day. He kissed the corner of her mouth. Until you believe you're worthy, wanted, enough. Eleanor pulled him into a deeper kiss. Everything she could not say moved through it. The mate bond flared between them. Powerful. Protective. Almost painful in its intensity. When they separated, both were trembling. After the council, Russ said roughly, after we survive whatever comes next, I want to complete our bond. Eleanor stared at him. Properly, officially. His eyes burned. I want you as my mate. A breath. My queen. Another. My partner in everything. Eleanor's heart soared. Yes. Russ went still. Yes? Yes. She laughed through tears. Yes to the mate bond. Yes to facing the council. Yes to believing maybe I deserve this. Her hands held his face. Yes to you, Russ. His expression broke into pure joy. Always yes to you. Russ swept Eleanor off her feet and spun her. She laughed. When he set her down, happiness blazed across his face. Tomorrow, we face the council. Eleanor nodded. We prove the marked aren't something to fear. His smile turned wicked. And after that, I'm courting you properly. I'm holding you to it. Good. Russ kissed her once more. Now sleep. He touched his forehead to hers. Tomorrow we change everything. Eleanor went to bed with a heart almost too full for her chest. Tomorrow frightened her. Tomorrow could become a disaster. But she would not face it alone. For now, that had to be enough. Chapter 7. The Council's Judgment. The gathering grounds were every bit as intimidating as Eleanor expected. An enormous stone amphitheater had been carved into the mountainside beneath the open sky. Seats rose in circles around a central platform. For centuries, wolves had come here to settle territorial disputes, negotiate treaties, and receive judgments. Today, Eleanor would stand in the center. Whatever language the council used, assessment, investigation, evaluation, she knew what this was. A trial. They were deciding whether she deserved to exist freely. Eleanor stopped beside Russ at the entrance. Drew pressed against her legs. He had refused to remain at Black Ridge. His presence helped steady her. Ready? Russ asked. No. She exhaled. But I'm going anyway. Russ smiled proudly. That's my girl. They entered. Every head turned. 15 alphas represented the major packs of the Northern Territories. Their combined power pressed against Eleanor's senses. Alpha Thomas sat in the front row, smug. 2 alphas were beside him, one massive and scarred, the other lean with cold eyes. Wilson Knapp, Russ murmured, the miserable-looking one. Eleanor almost smiled. The large wolf is Edmund Snyder of Stoneclaw, both traditionalists, both likely supporting Thomas. Wonderful. Anyone supporting us? Russ indicated a middle-aged alpha whose face carried deep lines of grief. Craig Stevens of Riverside. Then another. Julian Dixon of Clearbrook may be persuaded. He's practical. They reached the platform. Russ had to take his official seat among the council. That left Eleanor standing alone. Exposed. Spencer Hayes, the elderly head alpha, rose. Despite his age, his voice carried effortlessly. We gather to consider an issue of exceptional importance. Silence spread. Alpha King Russ Mercer has presented claims regarding Eleanor Stevenson. Spencer looked directly at her. He believes Miss Stevenson is one of the marked, a descendant of the Silver Moon bloodline, believed extinct for 2 centuries. His gaze remained steady. He has accepted her into Black Ridge territory and placed her under royal protection. A pause. Miss Stevenson, do you confirm those claims? Eleanor forced moisture into her dry throat. I confirm that my abilities are unusual. She kept her voice level. I can produce silver flames. Sacred sites have responded to my presence. Some alphas shifted. As for whether that makes me one of the marked. She looked around. I'm still learning what that means. A convenient response. Wilson Knapp stood. You claim an ancient bloodline while admitting ignorance of your own heritage. His disdain was obvious. You cannot prove your legitimacy, yet you expect recognition and protection. I'm not demanding anything. Eleanor faced him. I didn't choose this power. I didn't ask to be different. Her hands remained still at her sides. I'm trying to survive. And in doing so, you've disrupted pack hierarchy. Thomas rose. You challenged your rightful alpha and manipulated the Alpha King into accepting fairy tales. Eleanor's stomach tightened. Miss Stevenson lived under my authority for 25 years. Thomas looked around the council. I know her. I know her instability, her lack of control. His eyes hardened. Her dangerous tendencies. Russ's fingers tightened around the arms of his chair, but he remained seated. They had agreed beforehand. Eleanor needed to defend herself. If Russ fought every accusation for her, the council would dismiss her as nothing more than the Alpha King's obsession. Spencer nodded. Alpha Thomas, present your testimony. Thomas stepped onto the platform. He slowly circled Eleanor. She shifted at 13. His voice was calm and deliberate. Her wolf was silver, a color unseen since the marked were exterminated. The word hung heavily. With good reason. Eleanor turned toward him. The marked weren't exterminated because they were special. Thomas addressed the council. They were destroyed because they were unstable. Their abilities corrupted them, made them violent, unpredictable. That's not what the prophecy says. Thomas smiled coldly. The prophecy is propaganda, written by the marked. Edmund Snyder stood. I've studied older historical accounts. His voice rumbled. The marked believed themselves gods. They ruled lesser wolves through fear. They destroyed territories when challenged. That's a lie. Eleanor's heartbeat accelerated. The Moonstone Circle recognizes me. She looked around. Why would sacred sites respond to something evil? Perhaps sacred sites respond to power rather than morality, Wilson answered smoothly. A blade does not care who holds it. Eleanor looked toward Russ. Murderous fury burned in his eyes, but he could not intervene yet. Thomas resumed. I attempted to help Eleanor. False concern softened his voice. For 12 years, I worked to control her abilities so she could not hurt anyone. Eleanor stared at him in disbelief. And how did she repay that protection? Thomas looked at the council. She fled Clearwater in the night. She stole from our territory. When I confronted her, she threatened me with violence. I saved a child. Her voice shook. Drew was being hunted. I protected him. After leading the rogues directly toward him, the accusation struck Eleanor like a physical blow. What? Thomas faced her. The rogues were tracking you, Eleanor. No. Your silver wolf is visible to those who know what they're looking for. His voice turned poisonous. You're the reason my nephew became a target. Eleanor's blood went cold. You're the reason Olivia Mercer is dead. Silence swallowed the amphitheater. No. Eleanor shook her head. That's not true. I didn't even know Drew existed. The attacks began 3 months ago. Thomas removed a scroll. He unfolded a map. Coordinated attacks, specific locations. He showed the council. And every one occurred within roughly 100 miles of Eleanor's location at the time. Eleanor stared. Dates. Places. They aligned. It could not mean what Thomas claimed. But every alpha now looked at her with something she recognized. Suspicion. Fear. The same expression Clearwater had worn for 12 years. Monster. Threat. Wrong. I didn't do this. Silver flames appeared over Eleanor's hands before she consciously summoned them. Several alphas recoiled. I'm not working with rogues. The fire intensified. I would never. Control yourself, Spencer ordered, or we will restrain you. I'm trying. But panic fed the power. So did rage, humiliation, every buried emotion from the last 12 years. The flames climbed Eleanor's arms. This is precisely what I warned you about, Thomas said. He backed away from her. She cannot control herself. His expression carried false sadness. She's dangerous. Whether intentionally or not, darkness follows her. Enough. Russ stood. His voice cut through everything. You're arranging evidence to support the conclusion you already wanted. He stared at Thomas. I saw Eleanor save Drew. Wilson turned to Russ. You saw what you wanted to see. Russ's eyes narrowed. We all know you've spent years searching for the marked Mercer. Wilson gestured toward Eleanor. Then a girl appears with silver fire, and you convince yourself she's the answer to your prophecy. He pointed. Look at her now. Eleanor's flames grew hotter. She's seconds from losing control. Her wolf clawed upward. Trapped. Panicked. Exactly like the years in Clearwater. Eleanor. Russ moved toward the platform. Breathe. His voice reached through the noise. Look at me. Spencer lifted one hand. Alpha King, you will not interfere. Russ stopped. She's frightened. A growl entered his voice. You're cornering her and condemning her for responding like a cornered animal. We're evaluating the danger she represents. Spencer's tone remained calm. And at this moment, that danger appears significant. Eleanor felt control slipping. This was everything Thomas had predicted. Too much power. Too much emotion. Too much Eleanor. The silver fire exploded outward. Several alphas jumped back. I'm sorry. Eleanor gasped for breath. I'm trying. Then Drew howled. One frightened sound. Eleanor's eyes found him. The cub was trembling, afraid, and suddenly the entire world narrowed to one purpose. Number. She would not lose control. She would not become what Thomas expected. She would not become a monster in Drew's eyes. Eleanor closed her eyes. She went beneath the fear, beneath the rage, beneath 12 years of shame. She found the deepest part of herself. Not power, purpose. Protect the innocent. Stand against evil. Choose courage. The flames responded. Slowly, the fire pulled back. Down her arms, into her hands, then beneath her skin, controlled, contained. Eleanor opened her eyes. Every alpha stared. Her breathing remained heavy, but steady. I'm not losing control. Her voice was quiet. I'm choosing control. Those are different things. For a moment, Eleanor believed she had done it. Then Craig Stevens stood. The alpha who had lost his daughter. The wolf they had hoped would sympathize with her. Miss Stevenson. His expression was filled with regret. I believe you're brave. Eleanor's hope flickered. And I don't believe you intentionally caused these attacks. Then his voice became heavier. But Thomas has raised a question I cannot ignore. Eleanor already knew. The attacks began when your abilities began emerging. Craig swallowed. My daughter died during one of them. His eyes filled with pain. So even if you're not helping the rogues, what if your existence is still drawing them here? I would never hurt. I know. Craig's voice was gentle. But intention means very little if the result remains death. He looked away. I'm sorry. Then back. But I cannot support allowing you to remain unrestricted in the territories. Something dropped inside Eleanor. One after another, more alphas stood. Julian Dixon, Glenn Dalton, young Charles from Northwind. Wolves they hoped would remain neutral. all against her. Russ rose immediately. This is insanity. His control began to fracture. You're condemning her, based on fear and coincidence. We're protecting our packs, Wilson replied. Which is more than you're doing. Russ's eyes flashed. You've allowed your obsession with prophecy to blind you, Mercer. Wilson's voice was merciless. She's dangerous. Keeping her free puts every wolf here at risk. Russ became still. What exactly are you proposing? Spencer Hayes rose. His expression was solemn. The council votes to classify Eleanor Stevenson as a Class 1 threat. Eleanor stopped breathing. She will be bound with silver, her abilities suppressed by whatever measures are necessary. Spencer continued. She will remain in secure custody while we investigate the extent of her connection to the rogue attacks. You mean imprisoned? Eleanor barely recognized her own voice. You mean buried somewhere dark and forgotten? Thomas watched silently. Just like he did to me for 12 years. We mean contained, Spencer said. For everyone's protection. No. Russ's power exploded across the amphitheater. Every alpha staggered. Absolutely not. She's under my protection. Russ stepped toward Eleanor. You want her, you come through me. Russ, don't. His wolf was already close to the surface. Amber gold fire burned in his eyes. She saved my nephew. His voice thundered across the gathering grounds. She faced rogues while bleeding to death. He looked around at the alphas. She's shown more courage and honor in 2 weeks than many wolves show in an entire lifetime. His power intensified. And you want to lock her away because you're too frightened to understand what she is. Russ pointed toward Eleanor. She is not the darkness coming for us. He turned toward Thomas. She may be the only weapon we have against it. You're compromised by the mate bond, Thomas said. False sympathy coated his words. We understand, Mercer. You can't see her objectively. I see her perfectly. Russ stepped beside Eleanor. And hear me clearly. Every wolf fell silent. If you intend to take her, you'll kill me first. Chaos erupted. Alphas shouted. Some supported Russ. Others demanded his removal. Voices collided around Eleanor, and she stood motionless in the center. Her worst fears had become real. She had caused division, conflict, chaos. Thomas was right. She was too different for this world. Too dangerous. Russ. Eleanor touched his arm. He barely heard her. Stop. He looked down. I won't let them take you. You have to. Tears streamed down her face. Russ froze. If you continue this, you'll lose everything. I don't care. I do. Eleanor's voice broke. You'll lose your title, your pack, your ability to protect everyone who depends on you. She shook her head. I won't let you destroy yourself for me. Eleanor, I'll go with them. The words cut through her like glass. Russ stared. I'll let them bind me. She forced herself onward. Contain me, whatever they want. Her voice shook. Just promise you'll protect Drew. No. Promise you'll find who's really behind these attacks. Russ's face twisted. And promise? Eleanor could barely speak. Promise you'll forget me and move on. Never. Russ took her face between both hands. I will never forget you. His voice broke. I will never stop fighting for you. Then his anger returned. And I'll burn every pack in these territories before I let them keep you from me forever. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. Eleanor pulled away. Her heart shattered. I love you, Russ. He went still. That's why I'm letting you go. She faced Spencer. I submit to the council's judgment. Her voice steadied. I won't resist. She looked back at Russ. Just don't hurt him. Don't punish Black Ridge because they tried to protect me. Spencer slowly nodded. Alpha Mercer will face no formal sanctions. He acted according to conscience, even if we believe his judgment was compromised. Guards approached. Silver chains hung from their hands. Eleanor did not fight. The metal closed around her wrists. Pain seared instantly through her skin. Her power vanished. Drew howled. He tried to reach her. Javier held him gently. "I'm sorry, little one." Eleanor's voice cracked. "Be brave." Drew struggled. "Your uncle will take care of you." Russ was still fighting. Still arguing. 3 alphas had to restrain him. As the guards dragged Eleanor away, the final thing she saw was his face. Rage. Grief. Helpless fury. Then, darkness swallowed her. Chapter 8. When Darkness Falls. The cell lay deep beneath the gathering grounds. Solid rock surrounded Eleanor. One torch flickered outside the bars. Silver chains burned constantly around her wrists. They suppressed her power, buried her wolf so deeply that Eleanor could barely feel her. She curled onto the cold stone floor, and finally broke. She had tried. She had been brave. For one impossible stretch of time, Eleanor had actually believed she deserved freedom, love, a future. Now everything seemed like another lie. Perhaps Thomas had been right all along. Dangerous, unstable, cursed. A creature that needed a cage. Time disappeared underground. Hours. Days. Eleanor could not tell. Guards brought food. She barely touched it. They left water. She drank only enough to remain conscious. The silver burned wounds into her wrists. She almost welcomed the pain. At least pain proved she still existed. Then, when Eleanor had begun to wonder whether she might simply die there, footsteps entered the corridor. Not guards. Lighter. Cautious. A woman emerged from the shadows. Middle-aged. Kind eyes. A healer's gentle hands. Eleanor Stevenson. Eleanor struggled to focus. "Addie?" Addie knelt beside her. "I suppose you know me." She pulled something from beneath her clothing. A key. "But there's something you don't know." Eleanor frowned. "I'm part of the resistance." "The what?" "Wolves who still remember the old ways." Addie fitted the key into one of the silver locks. Wolves who never believed the marked were monsters. The chain opened. "We've been waiting for you." Eleanor stared, hoping someone from your bloodline survived. Another lock clicked. "When Russ found you, we knew the time had finally come." The final chain dropped. Feeling rushed violently back into Eleanor's hands. She gasped. Burns covered her wrists, deep and raw, but without silver touching them. Her supernatural healing had already begun. "Does Russ know?" "No." Addie helped her stand. "We couldn't risk telling him. The council watches him too closely." "Then why now?" "Because we don't have time." Addie's face became grave. "The darkness isn't coming." A tremor shook the prison. Dust fell from the ceiling. Screams echoed somewhere above. Addie looked upward. "It's here." Eleanor's wolf surged inside her. "What is happening?" "The rogue attacks." Addie pulled Eleanor toward the corridor. "They weren't meant to destabilize the packs." "What?" "They were meant to manipulate you." Eleanor stopped. "Everything pushed you exactly where the enemy needed you." Addie looked at her. Away from Russ. Another tremor hit. Powerless. The screams grew louder. "Imprisoned!" Eleanor's blood went cold. "Because whatever is attacking us knows the one power capable of stopping it belongs to you." "Stopping what?" "Move." They ran. Through underground corridors. Past other cells. Past distracted guards racing toward the violence above. With every staircase, the screams became clearer. Fear. Pain. Death. They burst into the main level. Eleanor stopped. The amphitheater was under attack. Not by rogues. By creatures that emerged from the earth itself. Shadows. Formless shapes twisting like pieces of darkness that had learned hatred. They had no visible faces. No mouths. Yet their screams sounded like grinding bone. Wherever they touched, corruption spread. Stone blackened. Plants withered. Wolves collapsed. Every alpha fought in wolf form. Teeth passed through the shadows. Claws struck smoke. Nothing worked. Traditional strength was useless. On the platform where Eleanor had been judged, stood a figure surrounded by darkness so complete that looking directly at it hurt. Addie's voice trembled. The Void Walker. Eleanor turned. The ancient enemy. Addie's face had gone pale. The thing the marked imprisoned 1,000 years ago. The figure raised one shadow-covered arm. Someone broke the seal. Eleanor searched desperately. Russ. She found him. His enormous black wolf was in the center of the battle, tearing through shadows that immediately reformed. Drew stood behind a protective circle of Black Ridge wolves. They were losing. Wolves were dying. Shadows swallowed them. Their screams stopped. Why imprison me? Eleanor already knew part of the answer. Addie confirmed it. The marked are the only wolves who can fight the void. Her eyes dropped toward Eleanor's hands. Silver flame is shadow's opposite. Light. Light made physical. Addie gripped Eleanor's shoulders. You are what they fear. Her voice sharpened. But you cannot fight the way you've been fighting. Eleanor looked at her. No more holding back, no more fear. Addie's eyes filled with urgency. You have to embrace everything you are. Eleanor looked down at the silver burns around her wrists, then the scars already marking her body, evidence of every year she had survived. She looked across the amphitheater. At Drew. At Russ. At wolves dying. Because Eleanor had allowed herself to be caged again, something inside her snapped, not into broken pieces, into purpose. Get somewhere safe. Addie stared at her. Tell anyone who can still hear you to fall back. Silver appeared in Eleanor's eyes. This ends now. She ran. Toward the shadows. Toward the screaming. Toward the center. Russ saw her. His giant wolf's head snapped around. Even from across the battlefield, Eleanor could see his shock. Then relief. Then terror. Eleanor leaped onto the platform. She landed beside the Void Walker. Up close, the creature was worse. It had the shape of a man, but nothing human lived inside it. It was absence. The spaces between stars. Every nightmare that had whispered from a dark room. You're free. The voice came from everywhere. And here comes the little silver wolf. The shadows moved around its body. Unchained at last. It leaned toward her. Have you come to die properly this time? No. Silver flames erupted from Eleanor's hands. Not weak, not hesitant. They roared. I came to finish what my ancestors started. She thrust both palms forward. Silver fire exploded across the platform. The Void Walker stumbled. Actually stumbled. Where silver met shadow, the darkness screamed. Impossible. The creature recoiled. The marked are extinct. Its voice twisted. Dead. Gone. Eleanor advanced. Looks like you missed one. Power rushed through her. Her skin began glowing. Her eyes burned mercury bright. And for the first time in 25 years, Eleanor Stevenson was not afraid of herself. The shadow creatures turned toward her. Dozens converged at once. Eleanor spun. Her fire expanded into a perfect ring. A wall of silver light exploded around the surviving wolves. The shadows stopped at its edge. Alphas. Her layered voice carried across the entire amphitheater. Get behind the light. No one moved. For one stunned moment, the wolves who had condemned her simply stared. The woman they imprisoned now stood between them and annihilation. Russ shifted into human form. You heard her. His authority broke the paralysis. Everyone behind Eleanor, now, Alphas retreated. They dragged their injured with them. Black Ridge warriors carried others. Even Thomas stumbled into the protected circle, bleeding and terrified. Eleanor remained outside, alone, facing the Void Walker. You cannot defeat me. Its voice shook the ground. I am eternal. Shadows twisted around its body. I existed before your moon, before your light, before anything dared call itself alive. Maybe. Eleanor's flames became brighter. But I'm what your darkness fears. The creature recoiled. I'm the light you failed to extinguish. She stepped forward. I'm every wolf you tried to break who stood back up. Silver fire climbed her body. And I'm done being afraid of you. Eleanor reached deeper, past conscious control, past the walls she had built over 12 years, past Thomas's voice, past her parents' fear, past everything. She reached for the core of herself. Not only Eleanor Stevenson, not the rejected girl, not the damaged wolf, the marked, her bloodline. Every ancestor who had fought this darkness before, and something answered. Silver light erupted from Eleanor. Night became day. Flames covered her entire body, her skin, her eyes, her mouth. Every part of her became radiant. Light made flesh, power given form, the thing the prophecy had promised. I am Eleanor Stevenson. Her voice carried other voices inside it. Old voices, ancestors. I descend from the first wolves. She lifted her hands. The moon's chosen. The Voidwalker pulled backward. The bridge between light and darkness. Eleanor's eyes blazed. And in the name of every innocent life you've destroyed, the ground began to crack beneath her feet. Every wolf you've corrupted, power gathered between her palms. Every child you've terrorized, the silver flames became almost unbearable to look at. I banish you. Eleanor released everything. Silver fire struck the Voidwalker like a hurricane consuming a candle. The creature screamed. Its shadow servants dissolved. Their voices vanished as light devoured them. Black corruption burned away from the stone. The Voidwalker fractured. This isn't over. Its voice broke apart with its body. I will return. More pieces dissolved. Darkness is eternal. Eleanor stood inside the silver inferno. So is light. Her expression hardened. And I'll be waiting. One final surge. The Voidwalker exploded. Ash. Shadow. Nothing. Every remaining fragment dissolved inside Eleanor's flames. Then silence. Eleanor stood alone on the ruined platform. The gathering grounds were cracked and scorched, but clean. The corruption had vanished. Every surviving alpha in the Northern Territories stared at her. Awe, fear, and dawning understanding. Eleanor had saved them. All of them, including the wolves who voted to imprison her. She slowly drew the silver flames inward. Control came more easily now, almost as if her power had needed the freedom to express itself fully before it could finally settle. When the last flame disappeared, Eleanor remained standing, human, burned, bleeding, exhausted, alive. Eleanor. Russ's voice was rough. She turned. He stood at the platform's edge with Drew in his arms. Drew was human. A little boy with dark hair and blue eyes. The trauma that had trapped him in wolf form had finally loosened enough for him to shift back. Uncle Russ? Drew reached toward her. Is Ellie okay? Eleanor almost broke. I'm okay, sweetheart. Her voice was weak. Just tired. Russ climbed onto the platform. He stopped several feet from Eleanor, almost as though he were afraid she would disappear. You came back. I couldn't leave you. Tears filled her eyes. I couldn't let you die because I was too afraid to become what I am. You were never the threat. Craig Stevens walked forward. Regret filled his face. We were. Eleanor looked at him. We let fear blind us. Old lies convinced us that your power was dangerous when it was exactly what we needed. Craig lowered himself onto one knee. I was wrong. His voice broke. We were wrong. He bowed his head. And I'm sorry. One after another, alphas followed. Julian Dixon, Glenn Dalton, young Charles, wolves who had voted against Eleanor without hesitation, all kneeling now. Spencer Hayes remained standing. He looked older. The council owes you a debt that cannot be repaid. His voice carried through the ruins. You saved wolves who had just condemned you. He lowered his head. You proved our assumptions about the marked were wrong. Then the head alpha bowed. On behalf of every northern pack, I formally apologize for the injustice committed against you. Eleanor's throat tightened. And I ask that you remain among us. Spencer looked at her. As our guardian. A pause. Our protector. Another. Our marked. It was everything Eleanor once thought she wanted. Recognition. Acceptance. Proof she was not wrong. But one wolf had not knelt. Thomas stood apart. His face twisted with fury. This is madness. Every head turned. You're trusting her because of one battle? He pointed at Eleanor. She could still be corrupted. She could. Enough. Russ's voice cracked across the amphitheater. Thomas fell silent. You suppressed her for 12 years. Russ moved toward him. You controlled her. You convinced her she was a monster. His fury was almost physical. And during those 12 years, Eleanor was the only thing standing between every wolf here and the void. Thomas's face reddened. Your fear almost killed all of us. Russ took one more step. So close your mouth before I close it for you. Thomas said nothing. Eleanor walked toward the edge of the platform. She looked at the gathered wolves, the ones who feared her, judged her, bound her. The same wolves whose lives she had just saved. I'm not your guardian. Confusion moved through the crowd. I'm not a weapon you can lock away until you need me. Her voice remained calm. I'm not your shield. She looked across every face. I'm Eleanor, a wolf who was tired of being told she was either too much or not enough. Then she looked at Russ. But I'll stay. He stared. I'll help. She faced the council. Because despite everything, I still believe we can build something better. Her voice strengthened. A world where power isn't feared, simply because it's unusual. She glanced toward the ruins. A world where wolves like me aren't forced to hide. Craig rose. We'll build it with you. Eleanor looked at him. Not for you. His expression was sincere. With you. As equals. Eleanor slowly nodded. Then she turned toward Thomas. And you will resign as Alpha of Clearwater. The amphitheater went silent. Thomas stared. Excuse me? You heard me. His face twisted. You abused your authority. Eleanor stepped closer. You suppressed one of the marked and nearly helped cause the destruction of every pack here because you were too proud to admit your fear might be wrong. Her voice turned to steel. I could kill you for what you did. Thomas's face paled. The council would probably allow it. Eleanor's eyes remained steady. But I won't. She moved closer. Because I'm not the monster you tried to create. But you will step down. You can't. You will allow Clearwater to be led by someone capable of compassion. Eleanor's voice was unwavering. Or I'll make certain every wolf in every territory knows exactly what you did. She gestured around them. And after today, they will believe me. Thomas looked desperately around the amphitheater. No one supported him. Even his former allies looked away. You can't. She can, Spencer said. Thomas turned. And she's correct. Spencer's voice was flat. Your failure of duty makes you unfit to lead. Pack law is clear. Thomas's face changed from red to white. He opened his mouth. No words came. Then he turned and left. His authority disappeared with him. Eleanor watched. She felt no triumph. Only exhaustion. Her knees weakened. Russ was there immediately. He caught her. I've got you. Drew wrapped his small arms around both of them. Don't leave again, Ellie. Eleanor kissed his hair. I won't. She held him tighter. I promise. Then she looked at Russ. I'm sorry. For what? For giving up. For letting them take me. Russ cupped her face. Don't. His eyes were intense. You did what you believed would protect me. His voice softened. And then you came back and saved everyone. He shook his head. You have nothing to apologize for. Eleanor looked into his eyes. I love you. Russ stopped breathing. I should have said it before. She touched his face. I should have. He kissed her. Deep, desperate, full of everything they had almost lost. The mate bond exploded around them. This time, silver light became visible. It wrapped around Eleanor and Russ like living thread. When they separated, Eleanor was laughing and crying. Marry me. Her eyes widened. Russ. Right now. He looked completely serious. Today, I don't want another day where I can't call you mine. Eleanor did not hesitate. Yes. His face changed. Yes to everything. She smiled through tears. Yes to you. Yes to us. Yes to building something better together. So, drew threw both arms into the air. Yes! Laughter rippled around them. Then applause. Despite the ruins. Despite the dead. Despite everything they had survived. The wolves around Eleanor began celebrating because they had watched darkness rise. And they had watched silver light rise higher. Eleanor Stevenson had once been rejected. Condemned. Taught that she was too wrong to exist. Now every wolf there understood the truth. Different had never meant cursed. Sometimes the very thing everyone feared was exactly what the world needed. Chapter 9. The Moonlight Binding. 3 days after the battle, Eleanor returned to the Moonstone Circle. This time, she wasn't alone. She wasn't frightened. She was getting married. The ancient circle had been transformed. Addie, and apparently half of Black Ridge, had woven winter flowers around the standing stones. White candles glowed against the snow. Warm pools of light surrounded the sacred ground. The wolves gathered there had not come to judge Eleanor. They had come to celebrate. She wore a simple white dress. Silver embroidery caught the moonlight with every movement. Her hair fell loose down her back. Around her neck hung the pendant Russ had given her that morning. An ancient silver wolf howling toward the moon. You look nervous. Addie adjusted the dress for perhaps the 5th time. Second thoughts? About Russ? Eleanor smiled. Never. Then what? Everything. She looked toward the gathered wolves. A week ago, some of these people wanted me imprisoned. Her voice softened. Now they're watching me become their queen. Not their queen. Addie squeezed her hand. They're equal. Eleanor smiled. You made certain of that. Addie's expression filled with pride. The council reforms you proposed. A formal voice for the marked. Protections for wolves with unusual gifts. She shook her head. It's revolutionary. We're changing things together. Eleanor corrected gently. I'm simply the wolf who happened to carry the power everyone feared. Music began. Traditional songs played through flutes and drums. Her signal. Eleanor took a breath. Then entered the circle. Russ waited at the altar. The sight of him stole the air from her lungs. Formal black clothing, silver accents, dark hair pulled back. Amber eyes fixed completely on Eleanor. Drew stood beside him wearing miniature formal clothing. He held the silver cord for the binding ceremony. Every step toward them felt like returning home. Wolves separated to create her path. Alphas. Black Ridge families. Even Clearwater wolves who had left after Thomas lost his position. Eleanor recognized faces. Craig Stevens smiled warmly. Julian Dixon nodded. Sandy stood with tears streaming down her cheeks. Javier and Wallace grinned like proud brothers. When Eleanor reached Russ, he took both her hands. His fingers trembled. You're shaking, she whispered. I'm terrified. Eleanor smiled. The Alpha King? I'm afraid you'll realize you're far too good for me and run. Not a chance. Spencer Hayes stepped forward to officiate. The old alpha seemed to have aged another decade after everything that happened, yet his voice remained strong. We gather beneath the moon to witness the binding of two souls. The circle quieted. Russ Mercer, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. Then he looked at Eleanor, and Eleanor Stevenson, the marked first of her name, returned. Eleanor had argued against that title. Spencer insisted. The marked required legal identity beyond individual pack hierarchy. Otherwise, future leaders might again attempt to control them through ordinary pack law. First of her name was an ancient position once given to the most powerful marked. The title still felt too large, too important. But as Eleanor looked at Russ, Drew, and all the wolves genuinely trying to create something better, she thought perhaps she could grow into it. Spencer faced Russ. Do you, Russ Mercer, take Eleanor Stevenson as your mate? Russ tightened his hold on her hands. To stand beside her in all things, to honor her strength and support her through weakness. His amber eyes never moved. To choose her every day for the rest of your lives. I do. Russ's voice rang through the circle. Before the moon and every wolf here, I choose Eleanor. His expression softened. Today. A pause. Tomorrow. His thumbs moved across her fingers. And every day after. Spencer turned. Do you, Eleanor Stevenson, take Russ Mercer as your mate? Tears already filled Eleanor's eyes. To stand beside him in all things, to honor his strength and support him through weakness, she smiled. To choose him every day for the rest of your lives? I do. Her voice trembled with emotion. I choose Russ. She looked at him. I choose us. Her smile widened. And I choose the life we're going to build together. Then let the binding begin. Drew stepped forward. He handed them the silver cord. Russ and Eleanor wrapped it around their joined hands. The ancient symbol of two lives becoming one. But Eleanor's ceremony held something more. Silver flames appeared. They wrapped around the cord, around their joined hands. The gathered wolves gasped. Not with fear. Wonder. The flames did not burn. They pulsed to the rhythm of two heartbeats. Spencer lifted his voice. By the authority granted to me by the Northern Council, beneath the eternal witness of the moon. Silver light filled the circle. I declare you bonded. Mates for life, partners in all things. Spencer smiled. May your bond remain strong. May your love remain fierce. And may your days together be long. Russ pulled Eleanor into a kiss. Cheers erupted. Silver flames expanded around them in a dome of light, and Eleanor felt the mate bond complete. Fully. Permanently. Unbreakably. When they finally separated, they were both laughing through tears. I love you. Russ rested his forehead against hers. My mate. A kiss. My Eleanor. Another. My home. I love you too. Eleanor smiled. My impossible, stubborn, wonderful wolf. Drew launched himself against their legs. Does this mean Ellie is my aunt? Russ laughed and lifted him. It means Eleanor is family. He looked at her. Forever. The celebration that followed was unlike anything Eleanor had known. Roasted meat, fresh bread, winter fruit. Music, dancing. Wolves from packs that had distrusted one another only days before, now ate at the same tables. They were celebrating more than a wedding. This felt like the beginning of something new. During a quieter moment, Craig Stevens approached Eleanor. I owe you another apology. You've already apologized. Not properly. His face carried regret. I let fear make me a coward. Eleanor waited. I voted to imprison you because I was terrified of losing another person the way I lost my daughter. His voice broke. But fear isn't leadership. Craig looked down. It's fear. Then back at her. I'm sorry. Eleanor took his hand. Your daughter would want you to be brave. His eyes filled. She'd want you choosing hope instead of fear. Eleanor squeezed his hand. So be brave now. She smiled gently. Help me make something better. Craig nodded. Help me make sure no more parents lose children to darkness. I will. His answer came with certainty. I promise. Craig was not the only one. Throughout the evening, wolves sought Eleanor out. Some apologized. Others thanked her. Some simply wanted to stand near one of the marked without fear. Eleanor received them all. Even when it hurt. Even when old words still lingered. This was part of remaining. Part of building. Part of choosing to change the world that wounded her instead of running from it. You're good at this. Russ found her during an energetic dance. At what? Leading. His arms settled around her waist, making wolves feel seen. Eleanor leaned against him. I had a good teacher. Russ lifted one eyebrow. You taught me power doesn't need domination. She smiled. That strength can be gentle. Her voice softened. That loving someone doesn't make you weak. His hold tightened. And that letting another person inside doesn't mean losing yourself. They swayed together beneath the stars. For a few moments, the celebration became distant. Only Russ remained. Her mate. Her partner. Home. What happens now? Eleanor asked. Now? Russ kissed her temple. We live. She smiled. We rebuild. He continued. We find wolves with unusual abilities and train them rather than suppress them. His gaze moved toward Drew. We find the rest of the resistance and let them live openly. A softer expression crossed his face. We raise Drew to be strong and kind. Then he looked at Eleanor. And I love you until my final breath. That sounds perfect. It won't be. Eleanor laughed softly. Very romantic. I'm serious. Russ's expression turned thoughtful. There will be wolves who fear change. Wolves who resist everything we're trying to do. I know. Eleanor looked up. But we'll face them together. She touched his chest. That's what mates do. Russ's smile was answer enough. The full moon climbed higher. Then one wolf began to howl. Another joined. Then another. Within seconds, the entire circle sang beneath the moon. Eleanor felt her wolf rise. She did not suppress her. She lifted her face and howled. Wild. Free. Joyful. Russ's deeper howl joined hers. Drew added his smaller voice. The sound carried across the northern territories. The marked had returned. The darkness had been defeated, and something new had begun. Later, inside the chambers she now shared with Russ, Eleanor stood at the window and watched snow fall. Second thoughts? Russ sat on the bed. Those amber eyes watched her. Just thinking. About? How different everything is. Eleanor turned. A month ago, I was completely different. Why? I almost gave up. She walked toward him. What changed? Eleanor smiled. You. Russ's expression softened. And this place. She sat beside him. Being seen for who I actually was, instead of what I feared I might be. Russ pulled her closer. Do you know what I see when I look at you? What? Everything. His hand touched her cheek. I see the woman who bled in the snow, protecting a stranger's child. His thumb brushed her skin. I see the wolf who stood against an alpha who spent years trying to break her. His gaze deepened. I see the marked who faced the void without flinching. He leaned closer, but mostly. His thumb moved over her lips. I see home. Eleanor's eyes filled. I see the person I was always supposed to find. His voice dropped. My mate. Eleanor kissed him. Love. Gratitude. Desire. Promise. Everything moved through the bond between them. Show me, Eleanor whispered against his lips. Show me what forever feels like. And Russ did. Hours later, wrapped together beneath blankets, Eleanor traced the scars across his chest. Marks from battles. Survival. A lifetime spent prepared for violence. Tell me something. Russ looked down. Something true you've never told anyone. He remained quiet for a long time. Then, I was afraid I'd die alone. Eleanor stopped moving. I thought being Alpha King meant being solitary. His arms tightened around her. That no one would ever see past the power and find the person underneath. He kissed her hair. Then I found you bleeding in the snow. Russ smiled faintly. My wolf knew before I did that everything I believed about being alone was wrong. Eleanor's throat tightened. You were what I was missing. He looked into her eyes. What I'd been searching for. Eleanor rested her palm over his heart. I was afraid I'd live alone too. Russ listened. I thought being different meant isolation. Her voice softened. I thought no one could ever accept all of me. She kissed his chest. The power, the fear, the flaws. Her fingers moved along one of his scars. Then you carried me through a storm. She smiled. You held me through nightmares. Her eyes shimmered. And you looked at silver fire like it was beautiful. Russ touched her face. You taught me that being different didn't mean being alone. We saved each other. Yeah. Eleanor smiled. We did. They rested quietly. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Somewhere down the hall, Drew slept peacefully. For the first time since losing his mother. They were a family now. Damaged pieces that had found one another and chosen to become whole together. Eleanor? Russ's voice was sleepy. Thank you. For what? For being brave. He kissed her hair. For coming back. Another breath. For choosing me. His arms tightened. For being exactly who you are. Tears burned Eleanor's eyes. Thank you for seeing me. She pressed closer. For believing I was worth fighting for. Her voice became barely audible. For loving me when I didn't know how to love myself. Always. Russ's breathing began to deepen. Always, Eleanor. She remained awake a little longer, watching her mate sleep, feeling belonging settle into her bones. She remembered the frightened girl she had been. Suppressed. Convinced she was too damaged for happiness. She thought about everything she survived, everything she had become, and the future ahead. Challenges. Wolves who needed protection. A world that still needed changing. A mate she wanted beside her through all of it. Moonlight came through the window and washed them in silver. For the first time in her life, Eleanor felt complete. Not because Russ had fixed her. Not because the council finally accepted her. Because Eleanor had finally understood the truth. She had never been broken. She had been becoming. And now she had finally arrived. Chapter 10. 6 months of freedom. 6 months later, Eleanor stood beside the Black Ridge training grounds. Morning sunlight painted the territory in gold and amber. Spring had arrived. Winter snow melted away. New life pushed through the earth. Everything seemed fresh, hopeful, filled with possibility. Much like Eleanor. Again. 10 young wolves stood before her. They ranged from 13 to 20 years old. Nervousness mixed with excitement across their faces. And this time, stop holding back because you're frightened of yourselves. Eleanor looked from one student to the next. Power isn't something you fear. She lifted one silver glowing hand. It's something you understand. These were wolves who had spent years hidden, suppressed. Taught something about them was wrong simply because their gifts did not fit the traditional expectations. One girl could see through solid stone. A boy could communicate with plants. Another young wolf manipulated water. And Gina Valentine, formerly from Clearwater, shifted into a pure white wolf with actual wings. Every student was different. Every one of them extraordinary. Everyone was learning that different did not mean damaged. Gina spread her wings. She took off. Her flight was still awkward, but far better than it had been weeks earlier. Eleanor watched proudly as the winged wolf circled overhead. Beautiful. Gina dipped one wing. But remember your control. Bring yourself down gently. Gina descended. She landed without falling, then shifted back. A massive grin covered her face. I didn't crash. Progress. Eleanor laughed. All right. That's enough for today. Rest. Drink water. We'll start again tomorrow morning. The students scattered, talking excitedly. Russ approached from the direction of the main house. He had spent the morning buried in meetings, council matters, territory negotiations, the never-ending responsibilities of an alpha king. But the moment he looked at Eleanor, the tension left his face. How did they do? He wrapped his arms around her from behind. Gina didn't crash. Eleanor leaned against him. I consider that a major victory. Russ laughed. And Wendell? The plant communicator? Yes. He accelerated a seed's growth by almost 3 weeks in less than an hour. Russ kissed Eleanor's neck. They're getting stronger. And more confident. Because they have someone teaching them who understands what it means to be different. Eleanor turned in his arms. We did something good here. Something extraordinary. Russ looked across the training field. The sanctuary is more than a school, Eleanor. His voice carried pride. It's proof. Of what? That the old way was wrong. He touched her cheek. Wolves with unusual gifts should be nurtured, not punished. The sanctuary. That was what they called it. Part school, part refuge, part home. A place for wolves who didn't fit the traditional mold. It began 3 months earlier with 5 students. Now there were 10. 5 more were arriving the following week from southern territories. Word had spread quickly. The marked had returned. And she was creating something no one had imagined before. Mama Ellie! Eleanor turned. Drew raced across the grounds. He was 5 now, dark hair flying behind him, blue eyes glowing with excitement. Mama Ellie, look what Uncle Javier taught me. Before reaching them, Drew shifted in mid-run. A smooth transformation. He landed as a small gray wolf and bounded proudly toward Eleanor. That was perfect. She knelt and ruffled his fur. Very smooth. Someone has been practicing. Drew shifted back. He wrapped his arms around Eleanor's neck. Uncle Javier says I'm going to be as strong as Uncle Russ someday. He considered it. Maybe stronger. Russ pretended to look offended. Eleanor laughed. I wouldn't doubt it. She hugged Drew. His scent was sunshine, grass, and home. But remember what I tell you. Strength isn't only power. Drew recited proudly. It's protecting wolves who can't protect themselves. And being brave even when you're scared. He grinned. And choosing kindness instead of cruelty. Eleanor kissed his forehead. Exactly. You tell me every day. Because it's important. She released him. Go wash up. Tell Addie there will be 12 people for lunch. Gina and Wendell are staying. Drew raced away. Eleanor watched until he disappeared. He called you Mama, Russ said softly. He has for about a month. Emotion thickened Eleanor's voice. I never corrected him. She looked at Russ. Is that okay? It's perfect. Russ pulled her close. Olivia would have loved you. Eleanor's eyes immediately burned. She would have loved the way you care for him. Russ looked toward where Drew disappeared. You're giving him the childhood she wanted. Safe. Eleanor smiled. Happy. Free. A memorial to Olivia stood in the center of Black Ridge territory. A beautiful stone carried her name. Fierce mother. Beloved sister. Eternal guardian. Drew visited every week. He told his mother about school, his training, his friends, and his new mama who could summon silver flames. I wish I'd known her. You do. Eleanor looked at Russ. You see Olivia every time Drew laughs. His smile held sadness but no longer only pain. Every time he protects someone weaker, Every time he's kind. Russ kissed Eleanor's forehead. She's still here through him. They stood together and looked over Black Ridge. Home. Javier trained senior warriors in the distance. Addie worked among the herb gardens Eleanor helped expand. Wallace supervised repairs near the eastern boundary. Everywhere Eleanor looked, wolves had purpose and belonging. The council meets next week, Russ said. Eleanor groaned dramatically. Craig wants to propose expanding the sanctuary model into other territories. Her expression changed. And Julian has 3 more gifted wolves who need somewhere safe. We'll make room. Russ smiled. He noticed the word, we. Months earlier, Eleanor would have said, I. She had finally learned that accepting support was not weakness. What about Thomas? Russ's jaw tightened. Nothing. After losing his position, Thomas had vanished from the Northern Territories. Rumors said he traveled south to spend the remainder of his life in obscurity. Some wolves believed execution would have been more appropriate. Eleanor had argued against it, not because she forgave Thomas. She didn't. But because she refused to become a leader who ruled through terror. As long as he stays away from you and Black Ridge, I don't care where he rots. Eleanor understood the anger. Thomas had damaged parts of her that required months to heal. But Eleanor also learned something important. Healing did not require forgiveness. It only required continuing forward. Come on. She took Russ's hand. Lunch is waiting and I'm starving. They walked through the territory together. Pack members greeted them. Smiled. Nodded. No one bowed. Eleanor had made that rule clear. She was not superior to them. She was their equal. She simply carried different gifts. When they entered the house, chaos greeted them. Drew was already seated at the table, telling Addie an elaborate story about Uncle Javier, 3 chickens, and a training dummy that had apparently come alive. Gina and Wendell laughed nearby. Javier emerged from the kitchen carrying an enormous pot of stew. Ellie, perfect. He pointed toward Drew. Please explain to your son that training dummies do not come alive. Eleanor considered the matter seriously. They might if Wendell accidentally talks to them. Wendell nearly choked laughing. Eleanor looked around the room. This was what she had missed. Not simply acceptance, belonging, not only safety, home, not just survival, family. After lunch, Drew went down for a nap, and the students returned to their lessons. Eleanor and Russ walked toward the Moonstone Circle. It had become a weekly ritual. Once every week, they returned to the place where Eleanor first accepted her power, where they married. The stones no longer glowed continuously, but whenever Eleanor approached, faint silver light moved through the ancient carvings, almost as if the circle recognized her. I've been thinking, Russ said as they sat on the altar stone. That's dangerous. He gave her a look. About expanding our territory. Eleanor's expression sharpened. Through conquest? No. Russ shook his head. Alliance. She relaxed. If we convince more packs to join the new council structure, accept gifted wolves, and cooperate instead of competing, he looked across the valley. We could create something that's never existed before. A united territory. Not ruled by fear or dominance. Eleanor considered it. Cooperation. Russ took her hand. With you as the bridge, the marked wolf who proved power doesn't automatically corrupt. Eleanor looked at the ancient symbols carved beneath them. Then she imagined the sanctuary. Drew, Gina flying, Wendell making plants grow, all the wolves still hiding because they were afraid. I think we should try. Russ smiled. Because the prophecy says so? No. Eleanor shook her head. Because it's right. That's my girl. Russ pulled her against him, always choosing the difficult right thing over the easy wrong one. I had an excellent teacher. They sat together beneath the spring sky. Eleanor felt silver power humming quietly beneath her skin. Always present. never frightening now. She could use it without letting it define every part of her. Eleanor? Something in Russ's voice changed. Tentative. Her heart immediately jumped. What? There's something I need to tell you. She turned. Addie thinks. Russ hesitated. Actually, she's almost certain. Russ. His eyes moved downward. She thinks you're pregnant. The world stopped. Eleanor stared. What? Your scent changed about 2 weeks ago. Russ spoke carefully. Sweeter. He looked almost nervous. You've been more tired, more emotional. Eleanor opened her mouth. Nothing came. Addie is rarely wrong about this. Russ placed one hand gently against Eleanor's stomach. Pregnant. She might be carrying Russ's child. Eleanor covered his hand. I don't know what to say. Tell me you're happy. Eleanor looked up. The Alpha King looked more vulnerable than she had ever seen him. Tell me this is something you want. His voice roughened. Because, God's Eleanor, I want it. Tears filled her eyes. I want to watch you carrying our child. Russ smiled shakily. I want pups with you. His thumb moved across her sweater. I want to build a family as extraordinary as you are. Tears rolled down Eleanor's cheeks. Yes. Russ froze. Yes, I'm happy. Her laugh broke through the tears. Yes, I want this. She placed both hands around his face. I want everything with you. Russ kissed her. Deep, claiming. And Eleanor saw a future opening before them. Not the future carved into prophecy. Their future. Children. Students. A changing world. A love strong enough to carry them through it. When they finally separated, both were laughing and crying. We should confirm it before telling everyone. Russ laughed. Very practical. Eleanor kept one hand protectively over her stomach. But if it's true, wonder overtook her. Oh gods, Russ. She laughed. We're going to have a baby. We're going to have a baby. He repeated it, as though trying to make the words real. A little wolf who grows up knowing from the beginning that they're loved. Wanted. Accepted. Russ's smile turned wicked. And probably inherits your silver fire. Eleanor narrowed her eyes. And your stubbornness. Our lives are doomed. Beautifully chaotic. I can't wait. They returned toward the main house hand in hand. Spring sunlight warmed their faces. Flowers had begun appearing across the landscape. Eleanor thought about the girl she had once been. Frightened. Hidden. Certain she was too damaged for happiness. Then she thought about the woman she had become. Powerful. Loved. Building something that might outlive her. None of it had been easy. Scars remained across Eleanor's body. Others remained somewhere deeper. But scars were proof of what she had survived. Proof that cruelty had failed to define her. Clearwater had called her cursed. Unnatural. Wrong. Now Eleanor knew better. Her difference had never been a punishment. That night, the moon would rise over Black Ridge, and Eleanor would howl beneath it. Not from loneliness, not from pain, from joy. She had found her pack, her mate, her purpose, her home, and every moment of darkness she had crossed had brought her here. The young woman who once bled into the snow protecting a stranger's child was now creating a world where children like Drew and wolves like Eleanor would never have to grow up believing they were wrong. The outcast had become a bridge between worlds. The wolf once called a monster had become the light that saved them. And Eleanor Stevenson, first of her name, mate to the Alpha King, mother to Drew, and perhaps now carrying another child, finally knew exactly where she belonged. Not hidden, not imprisoned, not shrinking herself for someone else's comfort. In the light, in love, inside the life she had fought so hard to claim. And it was more beautiful than any prophecy could ever have promised.